Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second day here of EU Contenders Trials. We're starting off this day right with both Moxie and I in the booth. We have a fantastic match to be bringing at you. It's Sheer Cold versus Vox Nihili. Sheer Cold, weirdly enough, showing back up in Contenders Trials after going 5-0 in their previous round. They got knocked down out of Contenders after just 2 matches. So now they got to fight their way back for scraps. And you know what? Same with Vox Nihili. Now they're trying to fight up through Trials into that contender spot. So it's a very important match for both of these teams.
I mean, we were discussing this a little bit before the cast about the win score lines. Sheer Cold, they went 5-0 in last Trials. They're 1/5 of the way to pulling that off a second time. Vox Nihili, though, they're a team that understands you can't come in with 2 losses beneath your belt. 3 is pretty much a death sentence, but 2 is that very uneven territory where you've got all of your limbs crossed that a team is going to bow out. And they got defeated yesterday. I think it was 3-1 up against Dark Mode EU. So if they want to be able to continue trying to go for contenders, they're going to have to pick up a win here today.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the unfortunate thing for Vox Nihili, if nothing else, is your first match is against Dark Mode, and you follow that up with Sheer Cold. Don't get me wrong, the rest of this group is pretty good, but clearly the top 2 favorites out of their group, and they have to play them up first, not to mention the fact that you really don't want to go down to 2 losses like you mentioned earlier. This doesn't get any harder for Vox Nihili, but there's definitely a chance, considering the fact that Dark Mode were the current winners of Open Division. I think that was definitely their hardest matchup. Sheer Cold have been shaky, like we mentioned, so there's definitely an opportunity to step in here and try and assert yourself, because Vox Nihili are a very strong team. They do have a very strong lineup. Speaking of which, Mox, why don't you take us through that?
Yeah, we're gonna have Vendetta, Alex, Theomatic, NKZ, Nat, and Froki. All these guys can hold their own to the point where we actually saw them take a map off Dark Mode EU. I think that was Junkertown yesterday, and so they will be, if they're showing up in force, definitely a force for Sheer Cold to reckon with.
Yeah, but to be fair, Sheer Cold on their side, they're nothing to scoff at. The DPS lineup of Graphin and Backbone is one of the best in Trials right now. Backbone looked insane on the Tracer, and Graphin just looked indomitable on Ashe, as always, especially when constantly damage boosted by Refid, who is getting away with way too many resurrects. And not to mention the tank line, Shade and Alex. Alex, I love to highlight as my pick easily for best Sigma in Contenders Trials right now. Practically deadlifted them all the way through that 5-0 they got previously. This is a really strong lineup, so it's no surprise that they managed to get that kind of scoreline. It's just about the consistency we got to see from them.
I mean, I'm looking forward to what these guys are going to be coming out of the gates with, because it being Trials. Map pool is being locked in. We know we're going to be headed off to Ilios first, and something that Sheer Cold ran yesterday on Nepal was Graphin on that Pharah, Backbone on the Tracer, setting up that crossfire, and that was something that Alliance really struggled to deal with. A couple of counters got just constantly placed in. They even put a Diva on the board when Graphin had that barrage up just to try and counteract it. So whether Vox Nihili are able to put Graphin out of the sky with a hit scan like Ashe, or whether they have to fall back onto the off tank, remains to be seen.
Yeah, and I think the first map is going to be one of the most available to run that far, seeing as we're starting off on Ilios, Moxie.
Lighthouse to boot as well, so plenty of open space if you've got that point unlocked. Whether or not these guys are going to be coming out on that extremely aggressive dive where you want to just grab a hold of that point and stagger it out for percentage after percentage, or whether we're going to be seeing them lean into the Roadhog, we're going to be finding out in a couple of seconds. Sheer Cold going to be leaning that way, Shade onto the road, Alex taking up the Zarya. A lot of aggression, a lot of peel. Vox Nihili are going to have to be so coordinated about when this dive comes through, because if that Roadhog has that hook available, no defense matrix is going to save Theomatic's life.
Yeah, there's kind of 2 separate win conditions here. One team relies on getting their ultimates going with the Sombra, with the Winston, as well as the Sound Barrier, whereas Sheer Cold, they have the opportunity to get picks anywhere. So this first fight is very dangerous for Vox.
Alex as well is going to be extremely dangerous, given that Sheer Cold have the Roadhog. He's going to be able to counteract the Winston, but you don't have CC, you don't have a Brigitte or a McCree, nothing to keep Alex in check.
And you can already see Vox and Nihili are very much respecting the Silence this year. Cold, you don't want to get caught out by the Ashe. You don't want to get caught out by the damage boost. They've already got a Sombra dropping pretty low here. Good dive, though, on Grath, and identifies the 1 weak player here. He gets a bit of ult charge as well as that point ticking over. Vox and Nihili can get this first tick and then hold on to it for just a bit. They're feeling pretty good, but Shade's gone. The biggest amount of pick potential now taken out from under sheer Cold. This fight's looking great for Vox and Nihili.
Looking great for Alex as well. He's just been farming EMP off Shade. Look at the difference in ults for those two players right now, though. Shade is just about to hit that 20%. Alex, 30% away from the EMP.
I'd like to apologize to the viewers ahead of time for having 2 Alexes in this game. It was not our choice, but pardon our confusion. Alex's EMP, Alex on the Sombra on Vox Nihili's side, is looking really good. And the fact that that's one of the first ultimates up, this is absolutely a winnable fight. Even without the Lucio being there, there's always just that threat looming over their heads. And if it catches out the Roadhog, in fact, they don't even need it to catch out the Roadhog, they've got a pulse bomb for that.
And then Kizzy was able to eat backbones as well.
Oh boy, now it's going to look for a re-engage. Nat pops a coalescence to ensure that they're going to win the fight. The Winston's still up. Theo's in a bit of a rough spot, but the EMP to try and give them a new breath of life on point here, but they've run into the Bob. Theo is gone. They're losing ground pretty rapidly here, as well as Shade's going to be coming back to point. Those picks will start rolling in for Sheer Cold if Vox aren't careful.
Sheer Cold just need to grab that point. They're going to have a Graviton Froakie so close to that silent barrier. NKZ, if he's able to eat that, it's going to be absolutely huge for Vox and Nihili, but they're not even going to let the Zarya use it. Alex is just forced to get out.
Shade going down there is just so important. Sheer Cold didn't want to commit the grab. They had the big bang combo, but they felt they could win it without it. Frankly, just a little bit too greedy with that.
But Froakie used the sound barrier in that door, so if the Graviton hits, it will be hitting hard. It all falls down to NKC. This D.Va, you've got to defense matrix one of these two ultimates, otherwise Sheer Cold will keep hold of that point.
Well, Froakie wouldn't have gotten to use the sound barrier anyways. I guess going down first, they've lost both their supports and Alex. Very quick picks from Grathon, who's finally showing up in the kill feed. It was someone who we expected to show up in this game, but he's been a little bit silent as of recent. Sheer Cold's only objective now is to use as few ultimates to take this point as possible. They did manage to keep their grab.
They didn't manage to keep the pulse bomb though. However, you will have that nano boost. You can give that on to someone like Shade, and because Froakie's still missing that sound barrier, Graviton is still a win condition in this next engagement. Nat's Coalescence is very nice, it's very shiny, it can be used aggressively to get the team in, but up against nano boosted Roadhog, it's just not going to be enough to keep the team standing.
Well, this is the struggle when you're going up against a composition like Vox Nihili's. They managed to stagger it all the way up to 99% based just off their ultimate rotation. They can afford to just wait for an EMP, wait for 6 ultimates to come online. There's not much Sheer Cold are going to be able to do. They have to be able to win these fights early and play proactively. Until Alex is holding on to this grab, there's no real reason to use it until that dive comes in, because until then, there's plenty of pick potential between Shade and Grathon. They can just hold their ground and wait for the dive.
Alex is holding onto the Graviton as well because he knows NKZ is forced into that spot. Divas play conservatively to keep their mech so that they have defense matrix to try and combat the Zarya's ultimate. And that means Vox and Nihili can't be as aggressive with this dive as they want. However, we're about to hit the big win condition for this team. Alex is going to be coming in with EMP, and NKZ is so close to that bomb.
Well, and KZ is going to have to wait a little bit. With the mech gone as well, that opens the door for the Graviton to be free. And I like this from Sheer Cold. Just going in conservatively, using just primary fires, while Vox and Nihili are holding on to their ultimates. It's still a threatening fight, but at least you're getting higher percentage out of it.
Sheer Cold still holding onto this Graviton as well. Backbone is about to hit his third pulse bomb, I believe, since Alex has had that Graviton online for him. Because they know Vox and Nihili, it's not the Graviton that they fear, it's the threat. They can't group up, and Froakie just has not been able to do anything on that Lucio because of it. He's not going to have that Cymer online another fight.
I mean, Froakie's the one I'm keeping my eyes on, because if you think about a fight with EMP and Sound Barrier, it's almost unlosable, but they don't have that Sound Barrier. They need to follow up this EMP perfectly. They only get one afterwards. It's Shade, and he's effectively been replaced by a Bob that's spraying onto this point. Plenty of lead going their way. The point's been taken over, though. Overtime's on. Are they going to get a touch? They will. Backbone takes down. And Froakie, he's off the map. This is entirely winnable for Sheer Cold. Off the back of Backbone, who's clutching out on the Tracer right now.
And they use the Graviton now that NKZ's been demeched. It's the last fight territory. Vox Nihili, Theomatics popping Primal just to get onto the point in time to touch.
I mean, it's what I mentioned. You didn't come in with Sound Barrier. You had 4 fights to build up that Sound Barrier, and they didn't have it. Yes, the EMP is nice, but the dive doesn't guarantee anything afterwards. You can take down the Roadhog, but by then, Sheer Cold had built up so many ultimates that it didn't matter. Froakie was 100% the person who needed to have that ultimate. It's what they were waiting for, and it didn't get there on time.
Because Vox and Nihili just weren't able to play with the Lucio. Because they couldn't. They knew Alex had that Graviton online. They knew if NKC lost the mech, that ultimate would be trotted out immediately. And so they played conservatively. They don't allow the Lucio the time to hit that ultimate. And moving forward, if this is something that Sheer Cold sniffs out yet again, then it's something that Vox and Nihili is going to be losing a map of yet again, especially with Graffin now going on to the far. It's not the big bang combo you need to worry about, it's that barrage setup.
Yeah, you're putting even more threats out. Graffin and Backbone did a fantastic job on the previous map. In fact, completely uncontested on the Ash for a majority of it. Hasn't swayed Vox and Nihili at all, though. They're a bit better grouped up. They have a nice position on the point here. But again, you're watching entirely for Graffin and Shade to find those first picks. He's got a hook. The Moira's down. Nat's now gone. No main heals. The entire team's going to crumble after that.
And they're not able to hit any ultimate farms either because Shade's just been absolutely dominating on this Roadhog. Alex has got to start getting in close, but Shade's the only one calling the shots.
Well, it's a nice couple of trades back. They've taken out some of those lower HP heroes. However, there's still those big, chunky health bars you got to get through. Sheer Cold are going to hold on for this and take over that first tick.
I mean, look at the difference in ult charges right now. Backbone is at 85% to a pulse bomb because he's not having to run around Roadhog hooks and dodge out of the way of those CCs. Vendetta on the other side hasn't been able to hit 50% because he's been so scared he can't go anywhere near this backline because Shade and Alex are both there to play bouncer.
Yeah, the fact that Alex is at 45% to this EMP is already threatening enough. Your Winston nearly gets one shot by Shade, and Shade doesn't have to worry. He's got supports on the high ground. He's just holding his own place. Backbone's chucking in a pulse bomb here, and then it's kind of smooth sailing for Sheer Cold right now because Vox and Nihili just can't close that distance.
Vox and Nihili, they're about to hit that EMP, but it's going to be that same story as that last fight on Lighthouse. Froakie's not got the sign for it, and they're even going to use it!
Oh no, this EMP was not the wisest of decisions. I mean, I understand going for it, you want to win it there and start rolling the ultimate charge, but
You gotta swap.
grand scheme, it's a huge waste.
You've got to swap after that.
I think
Put
so
in
too.
a McCree, something that will counteract Backbone on that Tracer and Graffin on that far because the DPS at the moment for Sheer Cold have just been completely uncontested, but Alex is sticking on the Sombra.
I mean, you can't really fault them. It's a great counter for the Roadhog. They just haven't made space. Their tanks are really struggling right now. Nat and Froakie as well, having issues staying alive. I think that all comes down to the fact that Sheer Cold's DPS are playing out of their mind, and I'm considering Shade one of those. I mean, it's a Roadhog for Pete's sake. Effectively a third DPS at this point. Pick after pick after pick. They can't deal with Graffin and Sky. He's been too much of a powerhouse. The Resurrect sure to come through here onto the Pharah. Sound barrier commitment, though, from Vox and Nihili. They're going all the way here. If they can't win it on this one, Sheer Cold are almost certain to finish the map. It's final fight as they're going to commit Cold. Let's keep up their members. The Winston's arrived in the back line, but it's not going to stop Graffin from connecting a barrage, taking out the main tank, taking away those health bars, and putting Vox and Nihili back on the back foot.
They just can't kill Shade. The Roadhog, he was hacked out the door. There was just no follow-up that was able to best the peel available for that pick. And now we're just going to see Vox and Nihili on the stackers trying to win any sort of presence on this point.
Yeah, and I'm honestly going to put a lot of this one down to the tanks right now. Alex and Shade feel like they are just on top of the world. The bubbles have been perfectly timed. I know we've been talking a lot about the Roadhog, but the Zarya absolutely is the one enabling that, putting him in those positions, allowing him to hold on and just walk wherever the hell he wants to. You've got a little bit of a cleanup for Vox and Nihili, but you know what? Maybe there's a chance they're able to pull this one back. They are racking up percentage.
Alex has racked up EMP charge as well. And we'll be seeing them able to solidify themselves on this point.
Wow.
You've still got to watch out for what Sheer Cold are going to be coming in with this next fight, though. Because we've already seen Froakie using that Soundbar to try and counteract Shade's whole hog. If you get stuffed up in one of these side rooms, that's a death sentence.
Yeah, Alex's EMP is nice, but I mean, we can go back to the previous two fights that we've seen EMP in. And in fact, it's only been two fights. They haven't followed up on it correctly. The dives in afterwards. Sleep on NKZ, though. The supports, they're just happy in the backline. No one's contesting them, even when they're EMP'd. You lose your main support. The Roadhog's going to walk on point, start applying pressure onto your backline. The tanks can't do anything to defend them because the tanks are trying to dive. The second that Theo jumps onto the back line, he is open to be hooked, and Sheer Cold are back in the same exact position they were. This time, though, at 60% for Vox Nihili.
But Vendetta does have that Deadeye, and you can see Graffin's being so careful. But it's Shade who's got to watch his stepping. Froakie comes in clutch for Vox Nihili, and Rapid maybe on the mercy, but you can't res that.
That is by far the most important pick we've seen, maybe this entire match, and it's coming out of the support lineup. Froakie, not only does he get that pick, he's also incredibly close to a sound barrier that could win them this last fight, Moxie.
Alex finally going to be having a little bit more impact on that Sombra as well. Goes for the health pack hack so that Backbone can't try to worm his way out of that one. And then even gets the hack onto Alex, denying the Graviton charge as we head towards final fight territory. They've still got barrage though, they've still got nano boost.
There's a lot of ultimates up for Sheer Cold. Vox Nihili just need one more fight holding on. Froakie pops a sound barrier early here. It's paying off though. Grathon's out of the sky. The Mercy's valking for res, but Froakie is defending that body with everything he's got, not wanting to let it come through. However, he used his boop. It's off cooldown. It all up to his team to pull it out. Looser goes down in the meantime though. There's no main support for the side of Sheer Cold. They still have to take this point over. Vox Nihili may have just done it, Moxie.
Vendetta is about to hit that Deadeye as well, and it's overtime, though. The zoning ultimate can be all Vox Nihili need to confirm this point.
Alex got another EMP up in that time. That is certain death. Vendetta following up with a Deadeye to seal things out. 100% rolled back by Vox Nihili. Now, if that isn't the fighting spirit, Mox, I don't know what is.
Well, a lot of it is that Alex suddenly just comes online on that Sombra. Defensive Sombra is a lot easier to play in this day and age than aggressing Sombra. Because when you're aggressing in, you've got to get yourself safely in unnoticed up against a team who are going to be spy checking every single area around them. When you're a defensive Sombra, you know which routes they're going to be taking. You can lie in wait with that hack available, go for the Roadhog, deny the Zarya the bubble with the hack, get your EMP up in next to no time, and have much more of an impact.
And with the EMP being the difference in the last one, the differences stay the same for the most part, outside of Grathon, who's running out the Widowmaker. And Widowmaker makes a really interesting dynamic because it's a big threat to the Sombra. It forces the Sombra to play a lot more safe. And while the Roadhog's around, yes, it's tough to get in the back line, but then you're worrying about sitting too far away and being in the sightlines of Grathon, who's now taking down your DPS one at a time.
And Shade now completely uncontested as well, because Alex has got to worry about the Widowmaker and try and deny the sightlines on the rest of the team. In fact, Vendetta's just going to go for the swap immediately, but though you don't have the Mercy Pocket, you don't have the damage boost, and worse, if you're able to confirm the kill on the Graffin, you've got to do it twice.
Yeah, it's not quite the same. However, the first fight isn't over. A hack on a Backbone makes it pretty dubious for Sheer Cold to move forward. However, somehow getting out with their life. Vox Nihili currently in control of the point, looking to take it over, but there's at least one person contesting for the time being. Meanwhile, Sheer Cold still on the back foot. They're going to have to retake this point.
Alex goes down as well, so Graffin now just has to worry about Vendetta, and when you've got that Mercy Pocket, that's a lot less of a scary prospect. In fact, you've even got your ultimate up to make it that much easier.
Yeah, you can hit shots, you can start finding those kills, but they still don't have control of the point. I've honestly got to say, Vox Nihili have played this neutral game exceedingly well. Their tank line is doing significantly better than they were in the previous map. However, it's still just not enough. When it comes to compositions, Sheer Cold is just always going to be better in the neutral. Vox Nihili need their ultimates to come up online so they can start taking this over.
But Sheer Cold are investing a lot into this though. Nano Boost, Whole Hog, yes, they'll have that Pulse Bomb Graviton combo to come in within this next fight, but Vox Nihili, if they're able to keep NKZ safe and encased in that Diva mech, will have the means to stop it, and that's not to even mention Froakie, who will be coming into that sound barrier. Finally, we can see this Lucio hit this ultimate and save his team.
And that's why it's so nice that Vox Nihili got control of the point and we're playing their tank composition. You had a lot of time.
It's going to be Vendetta sitting up on that high ground. You can see, though, that it's Alex and Theomatic on the front line who are capitalizing on all of the space that Widowmaker is allowing. Sheer Cold not able to try and contest Vendetta. The front line gets to move forward, bulldoze a path. Now we're going to be seeing ultimates coming out in this next fight. This is the true test for both of these guys. Graviton Pulse Bomb, huge investment. NKZ can deny all of that, and so Vox Nihili, if they play restrained, if they only use a Diva Bomb or a Soundbar in this next fight, will be able to win out that next one with EMP and EMP alone.
EMP is nice when there's a Roadhog on the field, though. There's always just a chance that things go south real quickly. Nice ultimate by Theo, though, separating away some of those supports. I think it was a little bit early as there was no real threat of the Roadhog, but he did achieve what he wanted to. He forced people into the EMP awkwardly. It's going to be a counter grab comboed. And now they pulse bomb eat is going to be enough to get them through it, though. Vox and Nihili are holding on. It's dead even. Kills left and right. It's turning into a bit of a clown fiesta on the point.
Vox and Nihili, though, remember, they've got the dive composition. They'll be able to get back into the fight so much faster. All the while, possession of point is in their favor. These ticks keep building up for this team.
And such is the nature of dive. You can contest forever. Even if they don't win this, you're at 99, you're feeling good. You just build up another EMP and do it again. And you might not have to if Vendetta's popping off like that.
Backbone is able to sniff out the Widowmaker. The Vox Nihili have already just dealt such a massive blow to Sheer Cold with the point percentage they were able to accrue in the entirety of that fight. Yes, they're coming in with coalescence, but that's not something you use to win yourself a fight. That's something you allow the rest of your team to come in aggressively with to build up to ultimates. And Sheer Cold are going to have to be able to hit that nano boost to be able to try and contest this team.
I mean, realistically, it's their only way of doing so. Alex is getting hacked out, though, by other Alex, and the Sombra, the ever-looming threat, still there. We haven't seen Grafton shut it down at all. You're bleeding out players. The ultimates are going to continue to come online for Vox Nihili. And as time goes on, this fight only gets worse for Sheer Cold.
Especially because Alex is 3% away from that EMP. Grafton comes out from Alex 2704, but you don't have the Pulse Bomb.
Well, it's full commit. It's pretty much last fight territory here for Sheer Cold. They've got to get a retake in. I think Vox Nihili just have to put on the brakes, hold everything, and now you've got some dangerous combos to be working with on your next attack.
And that's exactly what they did. They baited Sheer Cold into using that Graviton and Whole Hog. Now Alex can come in with the EMP, NKZ with the Diva Bomb as that follow-up. Vox Nihili only need to win one fight. However, with Sheer Cold sitting at 76% and counting, though, it's going to be final fight territory pretty soon for this team too. If they're able to hold on, if they're able to use Refid's Valkyrie to sustain themselves in this fight, then Lucy will be able to hit that Nano and Grafton hit that Bob.
Did that EMP, it only hit 2. It only hit the DPS of Sheer Cold. That was not the greatest. However, they do take out Shade. So in the front line, there are still people going down. It disconnected the supports away, but Sheer Cold are going to come in. They've got plenty of ultimates. That Nano that you mentioned got online. They've got Valkyrie for plenty of heals. The Bobs as a spare member. It's crumbling to bits for Vox Nihili. They used every ultimate they had, and it wasn't enough, Moxie.
Refid didn't get hit by the EMP. Plays it so cool. There's a Yata main play where you just hide behind a corner door, don't get caught out by it, and then you use your ultimate to bail the team out. It wasn't a Transcendence, it was the Valkyrie, and it was all the sustain Sheer Cold needed when they're running up against Dive, which does so very little damage. It's little chips that those heroes deal to you, rather than big old chunks.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't just Repid. There was a full identification from Sheer Cold that there was going to be an EMP. They needed to separate their players out so that they could play it more efficiently and lose less members to the EMP. That being said, though, I think that was pretty lackluster from Alex. I think you definitely could have caught 3 or 4 people there, at least one of those supports, but didn't manage to, and that is single-handedly going to cost him this map, similar to the way that Froakie not having Sound Barrier is going to cost him on the first.
It's the same story. Aggressive Sombra when you have an EMP is just harder to pull off than defensive Sombra, and because Vox Nihili were intruding into a space, Sheer Cold had already packed their bags around that point and set themselves up to deal with it.
So we saw a couple issues from both teams, I'd say, but I felt like overall the match was a lot more even than we were suspecting, right? Vox Nihili came off of getting 3-1 by Dark Mode prior. A really rough match for them. Now you're going up against Sheer Cold, who previously went 5-0 in Contenders trials. There's kind of a lot of weight on your back, but starting off that well is really impressive for them. And honestly, it's hard to understate how well they're playing today.
I mean, you talked before the match about how Alex 2707 was one of these standout players on that tank role. I've got to throw NKZ's hat into the mix. Every single time I've wanted that Diva to just have defense matrix up, be a threat to that Zarya, she's done it. In fact, she even managed to stop that big bang combo that would have absolutely nailed Vox Nihili's death right into the middle of that point. Been playing it pretty much perfectly. The only thing that I want to see coming out from Vox Nihili in these next maps is for them to more aggressively target the backline. those supports on the side of Sheer Cold, Lucer and Refid, are just having a holiday right now. There is no pressure on them.
Yeah, support's unchecked or support's doing way too much healing, that's for sure. Especially when you're trying to sub out a Tracer for a Sombra. You're looking for a lot of value out of the Sombra, not just from EMP. Clearly, the EMPs aren't enough to win them the fights, because Dive just doesn't have the same amount of damage to follow up on them that some other compositions may have. Yeah, you get 1 or 2 kills out of them, but you really need something, that little je ne sais quoi, to back it up. And I feel like that's the big part where Vox and Nihili are kind of failing to back it up, is on those EMPs, they're not making the most of them. And if you're going to run a Sombra, you must.
I mean, it's not just the EMPs as well. The reason why we're seeing Sombra come into play is because, yeah, she's very good to counter the Roadhog, but she also enables the dive to properly come through. When the Winston has to jump in, you don't want to be wasting that Zarya bubble as soon as the dive comes in. He's got to use it for the sustain, the exit, as well as getting safely into the middle of the team. And that means you've got to find another way to deny the Roadhog hook, and that comes in the form of the hack. It's just we're not really seeing the communication, the sort of domino effect that the dive that Vox and Nihili are trying to attempt should be coming in the form of Sombra hack first, Winston jump, Zarya bubble, exit safely.
And I think it's a bit of a shame, because I do feel like Vox and Nihili got significantly better at playing their tank line, and we can go back to the first fight on Runes that lasted a significant amount of time. And for Dive to go that long into Roadhog, Zarya, Ashe, Mercy without getting picked, that's really impressive. But you just have to continue to do that, and I feel like Vox and Nihili didn't quite have the staying power. Sheer Cold now looking to continue this. They start off on defense.
You've got to ask yourself what they're going to be locking in with. And this isn't much of a surprise. They know that the supports haven't had that much pressure, and so they're going to continue running with this backline. Well, actually, the sides have swapped though. We're going to be seeing Vox Nihili defending first, and they're going to be swapping things up. They're going to be running that double hit scan, so you've got Alex on the Ashe, going to be damage boosted up by Froakie, having that extra impact, one-tap potential. Vendetta on the Widowmaker, anticipating Sheer Cold to be coming out with something we've seen them run yesterday, Pharah.
And that Pharah is scary, scary, scary. But that's if they lock it in. Honestly, whatever Grafton's playing, I don't want to be up against it. Sheer Cold locking in the tried and true Roadhog Zarya, though. No surprises there. I think this defensive dive is going to be pretty tricky to pull off, though.
Especially because you don't have that Sombra. Now you're relying on NKC's defense matrix to keep Theomatic safe. There might not be shield in the way, which means that can still heal from afar. However, whether the Winston actually gets to survive the Ana heals, it's gonna be all down to whether or not Shade can land that hook.
I've seen worse. How are you?
This is a weird adaptation.
Oh,
Alex onto ball?
This is mean, dude.
This guy is almost exclusively going to be camping out this Widowmaker. Just waiting for the right opportunity to move into the back line, start taking down that Ana, and the big trouble here is now Vox and Nihili, they're playing on the back foot. They're playing counter dive. They have to be ready for this Wrecking Ball to come in and ready to deal with it at any point in time. But when your Ashe and your Widowmaker aren't on a crossfire, that's when you're feeling pretty bad about your odds. Vendetta is dropping very, very low. It's Sheer Cold. They gain map control, but they haven't gained any kills yet.
They don't want to step out because they know they're still facing down a damage-boosted Ashe, and so you've got to provide pressure on that front line before you make your move. And now we're seeing point percentage start to tick up as Vox Nihili's distractions come in full force.
And the timer for this is pretty much all based on Shade's health bar. If Shade is up, Shade can contest the point. Your DPS are going to have a hard time actually finding that much, but Theomatic gets in relatively unscathed. Yes, he goes down at the end. It's charged up a Bob, which is nice for Sheer Cold. It's going to give them effectively a secondary bit of health on that point, a secondary threat similar to the Roadhog playing. And now with that Bob, you can't peek, you can't contest, you can't do anything but sit and watch a Sheer Cold rack up the percentage.
Backbone's given the nano boost as well, so your Widowmaker is not going to survive for very long at all. One person currently contesting that point door, it's not going to last long. We're going to be seeing Sheer Cold start to pick their way towards B, and they've got real snowball potential. Whole Hog is going to be able to buy you just enough time for Alex to hit those hammer mines, and that is going to be point locked up. Vox and Nihili have got to come into something that's going to be able to clear those. And KZ's Diva Bomb is going to be just that. However, you're 30% from being able to pick it up.
Yeah, I think the Bob's really the only thing they have that can contest this initial push, but it will start ticking up early. You're running the same exact DPS composition. It requires that they get picks. Grafton going down, though, is definitely a great start for them so far.
NKC's able to keep the mech, though that's huge. Alex will be having those hammer mines, but you've still got the bomb to play Minesweeper. And Sheer Cold, because they've been picked off, can't really commit in just yet. Refid already had to use that res to keep Grafton up, and that means Luce is going to be coming back in the hard way.
Yeah, you really don't want to be waiting for the Ana, but they have maintained their position here at the very least.
Luce as well, if he comes in on that front, as long as she could actually move their way onto point, the Ana should not be looked at and should still be able to heal from afar.
She's not even to point yet, though, and they lost Grafton. That's about the longest stagger you could possibly get. They do get the res up just in time. Oh boy, losers come back, not to heal Moxie, but to take out enemy Widowmakers. Vendetta's gone. Theo trades out for Refid, though. Oh my god, what a juggle by Theo, taking Shade all the way off the map. He gets the second double dipping with the Primal Rage to hold on for Vox Nihili.
And Sheer Cold are just going to have to reset themselves and come again. And Vox Nihili, now they've got measures in place, failsafes. Vendetta's onto that McCree to play a little bit more supportive to that backline because NKZ and Fiamatic are going to be going so very aggressively. The Ana is going to be left entirely to her own devices. You need to have that flashbang, especially if Backbone decides he wants your main support for lunch.
Backbone doesn't have the pulse bomb, though, so taking out one of the supports is a little bit more questionable than it used to be. As far as everything goes, Vox Nihili are currently in charge of the ultimates, which is the big thing you want to be worried about if you are playing double bubble. You need ultimates that you can roll them into the next fight, into the next one. Alex's Bob is going to be critical in holding on to this point and contesting it. Vendetta, though, drops on the low ground to contest the Tracer. It isn't able to. Backbone will get traded out eventually, but it means Alex is out of position. It means they get to walk on for free, and now they've got to retake the point that was once there. Using the Bob to hold on, though, we said how good of a job it can do at contesting, and it's done exactly that.
But only for a couple of seconds, and now Luce has got that nano boost to give Shade some extra power. He doesn't need the whole hug door. He's an ultimate in himself.
This is a dubious fight, though, Moxie. There's still plenty of time for Sheer Cold to actually lose members on the way in. Lucer doesn't exactly have the best position. He has to play greedy because he's lost his other support. And trading 1-for-1 just isn't acceptable when you're on the second point of an assault map.
They thought they would be able to hit ultimates. Look at Backbone and Grafton. They are so achingly close to that Pulse Bomb and Bob. If Sheer Cold had been able to keep Refid alive for a couple more seconds, 10 minimum, then they would have been able to come into those and properly challenge Vox Nihili. As it is, they lose that fight, they lose that Mercy. Now they've lost a whole lot of time on the bank and allowed Vendetta and Alex to reclaim the high ground to set themselves up for their own ults.
Yeah, the post bomb thought was nice. Theo's going to drop low for it, but Nat's just able to pick him right back up. In the meantime, that's charging up those support ultimates for Vox Nihili. They're playing this dive composition exceptionally right now. Bob on the point to start the contest. It's Omnic Warfare, though. Here's either Bob is shooting at each other. It's going to be the winner, though, for Vox Nihili, continuing that presence that is so key. Stunned out of a whole hog, and now just bound to eat some damage from a bomb. Shade can't push anywhere near this point and can't do what his team needs him to do, hit those hooks.
And Sheer Cold just don't have a win condition right now. With 1 minute left, you're just needing to reset, needing to buy as much ult charge as you possibly can. Shade's even going to get res back into this fight. Sheer Cold think they can win this. They're in that same exact position, though, so close to those ultimates.
Vendetta has a high noon, but I don't think it's going to be able to be used. It's looking pretty good for Sheer Cold. The Wrecking Ball not nearly as good of a stagger pick when there's a Roadhog and a Zarya on the point as well. This is going to be a really tough retake for Vox Nihili if they can come in and do it. Maybe you get to pop the Valkyrie, but you're stuck in a Graviton, and that's going to be the nail in the coffin. Sheer Cold are going to complete this push maybe before overtime. That is if Vox Nihili don't have anything to say about it. These staggers are getting pretty serious.
Theomatic's just waiting around that point for his turn to come in and contest, but he's hooked, he's shredded in seconds. Sheer Cold, 15 seconds left on the clock. All Vox Nihili can do is just stagger in and hope it's enough.
I mean, 10, 9, holding them to overtime would be so important here, but they're going to get it with 6 seconds on the clock. Sheer Cold nearly held at point B, but they give themselves another chance at life here on Volskaya. It's now Vox Nihili's turn.
There's a big difference as well in the way that they're able to pick up that point door. It's the exact same thing, so close to ultimates. The only difference is they've still got the Mercy in play, and that's why they stay on that point. As soon as that Resurrection comes in, Sheercold's forces are bolstered. And that's something that Vox Nihili have got to start dealing with. We talked about it, Refid is just so sly on that Mercy, gets into the really crazy positions, and is still able to not only safely put the Resurrection in, but get himself out as well.
Yeah, things are far from even in the Mercy battle right now. I feel like Refid is a lot more experienced on the character. Yes, Froaki's playing it, not dying, but the difference comes in those resurrects. It comes in the confidence of your team and communication, knowing that, okay, my D.Va is going to be there to back me up, or my Zarya is going to be able to give me a bubble. I know these timings, and so you're able to be so much more confident in going for those. Refid clearly has the upper hand right now, but Sheercold still have to pull off this hold.
I mean, talking of divas, Alex2704 is going to be sitting on the off tank. And so if Vox Nihili tried to put anything in to properly contest Graffian's Widowmaker, then you're just going to be bullied out.
Yeah, and I kind of like this option as opposed to the Zarya. It gives you more options to counter dive, like you said, to bully people away from your Widowmaker, one that we know can be very deadly in the hands of Graffian. This entire composition is pick-based, and then keep the people who are trying to get picks alive-based. So eyeball the Roadhog, the Widowmaker, and the Tracer as we get into things, because it's going to be Vox Nihili vying for a position that is going to be really hard for them to get.
They've just got to move forward and not lose someone as they take those first steps, and Graffin's going to make that so very difficult. He set up perfectly to get an eye line on Nat's head.
Yeah, there's a reason this is taking so long for them to walk forward. Like you said, they got to be so careful, but that's what happens when you're not. You lose your whole support line and immediately get reset. All that work was for nothing, Moxie.
And it's the difference. Froakie tries to go for the res for Nat, but the team is just not in the position. It's only the D.Va as that helping hand to try and keep that Mercy up, and Sheercold, sensing that weakness, pounce.
Now you're still scared of the Widowmaker. The Ashe is there. A ball swap from Vox Nihili. What's this for?
Same mentality, just get in and bully Graffian. You'll have NKZ to get that defense matrix off to make sure that the dive initially is able to come in, but YaB goes off on his own without the defense matrix, and now he's behind enemy territory completely apart from his team.
He's getting bullied to death by Alex as well, who's just going to walk up to the high ground, defend his teammates. This Wrecking Ball isn't really much of a threat. Vox Nihili are yet to offer anything up. That's really scary, and I gotta say, all of that comes down to Sheercold's setup right now. The D.Va on the high ground with the Roadhog on the side, as well as the sightlines from the Widowmaker. I mean, where do you even walk here, Moxie?
And free from Sheercold, we're just occupied trying to find YaB. And Vox Nihili are still only able to get themselves to move into side room off of that shiny distraction.
Yeah, Sheercold are playing out of their minds currently. I don't want to play against any of these DPS, Shade included. Now you finally got a little bit of control over high ground, though. And if Vox Nihili can end it in this fight, they'll be going into B with a pretty good bit of ultimates. Vendetta finds a pick onto Shade early. They're going to go for the nano boost to ensure it happens. A resurrect, though! Refid always gets away with it. How on earth is this man still alive? You put a nano boost into the Tracer, but Sheercold are going to hold on yet again by just the skin of their teeth.
And Graffin gets to hold on to high ground yet again, because even though the Mercy
Oh
was gone...
my god.
Oh!
No one can hide.
That's a good contest from Alex, though. Could have tried to go for the Mercy, but the Ashe being there means that you have to take the deal. Your attention is occupied. And so Vox Nihili aren't quite out of this yet. They're still sticking around, but with the Mercy going down, you've got to get out of dodge. 1 minute,
Wait,
20
that was
seconds.
so sick.
120
The
seconds.
bomb forced them.
The bomb indeed herded them right back into the jaws of danger, and Vox Nihili, that's not the place that they wanted to be with only 1 minute, 7 seconds left on the clock. They got the Valkyrie, but that's going to have to be popped aggressively to try and let NKZ and YaB hit these ultimates to have them in this final fight.
Things certainly aren't looking great, and you know what? That pulse bomb that's in Backbone's back pocket is certainly targeted just for the back line. Doesn't find anything, though, with it. So at least you survive that. Now if you're Vox Nihili, you need to get in off the back of this Valkyrie and not get caught out by these mines. A good placement separates the supports away who aren't going to really be able to heal their team. However, they've regrouped underground. A great healing nade to keep the rest of the team up. Now you're at it again. You have to walk into the sightlines of this Roadhog. Immediately dropping the bomb on top and doesn't catch anybody. No! Just barely. The health bars for Sheercold, though, are dropping so slow, Moxie.
And nothing can really contest Alex right now because Graffin was forced off the high ground by those Hammond points. In fact, Luce is putting the nano boost onto Backbone just so he can try and infiltrate the team.
Sheer Cold are just racking up ultimates right now as well. There's been next to no point percentage gained. I'm real scared of what Shade can do here. One missed hook, but a whole hug can force everybody off point in overtime. If he's left to live for too long, you're worried. Pulse Bomb connects and needs the support to keep him up. Like this play though, forcing the Bob off point as well as the supports. It may have been a small whole hog, but it may have just done enough for Sheer Cold to get at least one more contestant here.
Bob still got a say in this fight though. However, Alex's Diva Bomb is going to force everyone from Vox Nihili off that point during it was overtime. If a single member steps off that point, we're going to be seeing the end of this map.
Alex has a good position over point though, uncontested for the time being. Shade hits him with the hook! Ends it there. Thematic has to contest this point, but overtime is way too quick. Sheer Cold full holding, looking so much stronger on the second map. Just put Vox Nihili right back in their place.
Vox Nihili, they knew what they needed to do, and they put so many things on the table door to try and remove it. That high ground was the bane of this team's existence. First they tried to contest it with the Ashe, then they tried to send the Hammond in. We even got to see the Hammond mines being dropped just to deny Graffin the spot that he wanted to be standing in. But at the end of the day, it's still not enough. Because after the Hammond mines run out, Graffin just grapples back up, the Mercy pocket is right back in the on his backside, and then when Thematic on that Hammond tries to go for him, he gets slept out.
I mean, what can you even say? Sheer Cold are putting up such a strong defense with this Roadhog, and Vox Nihili refuse to play it. Outright refuse. They have not even eyeballed it, and honestly, I think it might just be their only way back into this matchup. Especially on an Assault, it's such a strong pick there. The dive doesn't really offer you that much. You saw they couldn't get the space to work with that they needed to actually get to that high ground. Yes, it's a nice thought. Oh, we'll take out the Ashe, we'll take out the Widowmaker, but you can't. You have to get past that Roadhog, and sometimes you just need another hog to get there.
I mean, the thing for me was they were targeting the DPS, not the supports. And so you put so much into the hopes of trying to remove Graffin on the Widowmaker, you don't have anything left in the tanker when the res comes through if the Widowmaker's gone. And this is something that we are seeing from teams that have just a little bit of a difference in standings. Teams at the top understand the DPS, yes, are a problem. The kills that they can get potentially can wipe out a push, but you've got to sweep the supports out so that the DPS don't have anyone to stand beside them.
And you know what? I don't think it gets any better as we head on to our next map here. It's going to be Hollywood, and I'm worried, Moxie. Yes, the second point's nice for dive, but the first point with Roadhog Zarya can be pretty unforgiving.
I mean, it's so hard to just try and yank that high ground from the defensive side, especially if you're still going to be churning out this very stubborn dive that we're seeing Vox Nihili really committing to, because it's the same thing, the same counters in play. The high ground is going to be there for Graffin to take, whether he wants to go Ashe, whether he wants to go Widowmaker, it makes no difference. And you're always going to be walking into that protected Roadhog that is just the absolute thorn in the side right now.
I mean, Shade looks unkillable. He looks like he's getting way too many kills. He gives sightlines over to Grath. It's a whole storm for Sheer Cold right now. But after a shaky first map, they seem to have a real grasp on how to play this composition, and it fits perfectly into today's map pool. Vox Nihili, it's going to take a pretty serious effort from them. Do you think they need that Roadhog swap, or do you think they just need to play this dive better? Because clearly they're kind of uncomfortable with both of those options right now.
Well, it appears they're going to be settling for the 50-50, agree to disagree. Thematic's going to be rolling out on the Winston, so half the dive, and NKZ is going to be trading it up for the Roadhog. Half of what we've been asking this team to lean into. You've still got Froki on the Mercy, so you'll still have that damage boost available for Alex. Nat's going to be a little bit more protected with that Roadhog by his side in the form of that hook if the Tracer tries to come his way. But you've also got the big old does Winston Roadhog work? Because the reason we see Zarya is being run with Roadhogs is so you've got that bubble. It's the exact same thing for why we see Zarya's run with Winston. Winston's going to be jumping in, and the only one who can help him stay alive is going to be Nat and Vendetta.
Yeah, this is extremely tough running this without a Zarya to back up the hog. In fact, I'm not even sure what Theo's going to dive. I mean, you can drop down onto the low ground, start zapping away, and then go for a pick, or, you know what, just find Backbone sneaking around the backside and shut down this first push.
That's going to be Sheer Cold waiting. They can't go for the res. Refid would not be able to get away with that one, and so Vox Nihili can use this high ground to its full advantage, but they're not. Alex is not spamming damage into this team, and they're getting cocky and getting shots off for free.
They've forgotten what composition they're playing into, Moxie. You can't get too greedy. There's still a Roadhog. There's still a damage boosted Ashe on the other side. And Sheer Cold, they don't miss. Grathen doesn't miss. He's going to take off your head every time. And if you are too far forward, Shade is going to drag you even further. So Vox Nihili are pushed off of point A as Sheer Cold take control.
And Nat goes for the nano boost as well. He didn't even manage to get it onto a person, though. That was panic if you've ever seen it. And now it's the Staggers. And these are brutal. These are the reasons why point B never has that even fight. Because if you let the attacking side, once they've got that point A unlocked, just keep running you into individual duels, you're never going to be able to regroup and actually come in for a proper contest.
Well, now we are in the part of the map that I think Vox Nihili were actually looking forward to. Oh, maybe not for long if this Winston goes down. If Theo falls here, oh boy. You know, it was the one part of the map we thought they could run dive on, and you lose your one dive hero.
It's the Sagas, and now Shade feels like he can go as aggressive as he wants. And if they try and capitalize on a Roadhog on his lonesome, he's got the ultimate to bail him out.
I mean, this guy walks around like he owns a damn place. It is ridiculous what you could do. Oh my god. Long distance Bob. Return to sender. Is that actually going to get anybody? I'm not quite certain. It's given Shade the space to take out Vendetta. It's forced him onto the back foot. Did they just whole hog the Bob?
They whole hogged the Bob. They needed to just get him out of their face because he was set up on the high ground, or you had to just abandon it. Graffin and Alex aren't given the sight lines they need. And now you're boxed into a corner up against Sheer Cold, who all this while are pushing that cup for free.
Oh, what a sick hook. Takes down Theo, and I think even more important than all this is Grathen is on the high ground right now. He is raining hell from above, and there is not a singular thing that Vox Nihili can do about it. He's just damage boosted, taking pot shots. They're cruising through B-Mox.
That Bob just completely displaced the DPS lineup for Vox Nihili. And now we're just going to see Sheer Cold completely displace all of these daggers. And all the while, though, they're building up ultimates. They're going to be coming in with the big bang. And Vox Nihili, they're not running the Lucio, they're not running the Batiste, they're not even running the Diva. Anyone who gets caught in this Graviton, if it's not a tank, and that Pulse Bomb is used there as the follow-up, then they're gonna be gone.
Well, you know, Mox, I think we're very quickly learning why people don't run Winston Roadhog. I think that can be the lesson for this map. Oh my god, they own this high ground. Do they know what they're running into? I think Vox Nihili have a suspicion that there's a couple people up here, but they have no clue that there's 5 members of Sheer Cold ready to take him out. Nat taken down by a pulse bomb. There's still more members. A hook at the ready. Shade's going to get another one. All the while, this cart going towards the end. Froki's going to get a res, but it's just a consolation prize here as we're nearing the end of the rope for Vox Nihili.
Alex needs to hit this Bob and stat. It's the only thing that can slow Sheer Cold down right now. He's able to hit 2. He's able to get the ultimate bolt up, though. They can still come back from this. Remember, their respawns are so much closer.
Yeah, they popped the bomb. Sheer Cold don't really have that much in the way of ultimates to actually contest this one. It's the next fight that they need to be worried about.
Especially because NKZ is onto that Hammond just to get back into that fight fast enough. He's off the Roadhog. He's sacrificed the whole hog charge. And Shade, he's already got that ultimate. And Luce is going to even have the nano boost, Refid, the damage boost with that Valkyrie. Sheer Cold are going to be unstoppable in a couple of seconds unless Vox Nihili can try and equalize things with an early pick.
I think the nano boost went down onto the Zarya there, if I'm not mistaken, but he put a whole hog on the other side of the point. This cart's going to continue forward. No one can contest it because they're just going to get shoved right away. Sheer Cold have gained a lot of position off the back of this, but no real picks quite yet. The dive has a little bit of space to work with, but with Alex and NKZ gone, the numbers just aren't in their favor.
Theomatic's anti-naded as well. Look at that Winston's health bar. Somehow he's alive. But Vox Nihili don't have an ultimate, don't have anything that can try and stop Sheer Cold from just bulldozing their way on through.
And now that Sheer Cold are through the door, Grathen gets control of the high ground. He gets to take shots wherever and whenever he wants. Boosted up by Refid as well. The Mercy that's been by his side the entire match. Looking to end it just the same. With about 3 minutes on the clock, it's feeling like Sheer Cold are going to set a disgustingly good time on Hollywood.
Vox Nihili, they tried to go for the please everyone approach door, and that just does not work. It's the hybrid, and so very rarely we actually get to see hybrid fully work, and they lost point A so quickly, point B so quickly off the back of that, because they just tried to run Well, chips and I don't even know what really goes badly with chips, but definitely the opposite of what we really wanted because they just counteract each other. Winston wants to dive in. Roadhog wants to hook them into him, so when the Winston jumps, it's got to be the backline, which means that the Roadhog is left alone. A massive stack of ult charge, a walking rectangle of a hitbox to take the full fury of a front line.
You know what I think the cherry on top is? It's that they reach the end of the point. They get to the point where they're running staggers. They've got a Winston and Roadhog. They're like, we need to swap one of these. There's some issues. And they swap the Roadhog off. Not the Winston that was dying at the start of every single fight. It would have worked for the second point, maybe if you swapped a full dive for that, but the fact that they got staggered out of point B entirely means that they don't even get that option. Now, they're trying to reinforce this by running dive again, but honestly, it's pretty much a similar setup to what we saw in Volskaya.
They've learned, though. It's not going to be Winston Roadhog. It's not going to be Chips and Mold. It's going to be NKZ on the Zarya, so you've got that bubble. You can enable Fnatic to go a lot more aggressively with more sustainability, and you've even got Vendetta onto that Tracer to try and jump alongside them. However, Shakehold are very good at poking away at you from a distance and evening things up before the fight starts.
That was a solid dive, though. They got a lot of control over high ground there off Thematic's one push. What are they looking to do here? They're looking to stage a full dive onto the backline. They're looking for the sports. They're looking for Refid or that backline in particular to try and make some damage happen. Lucia going down first is exactly what they wanted, Moxie. This is the best dive we've seen all night from Box. Nihili looking to seal it out with a couple more kills, but Refid's got the res. Nat goes down. It's starting to fall apart for them as Sheer Cold do what they've done every single time off the back of one of Refid's ridiculous reses.
They had it all. They had the spacing. They had the key pick. And then they back out because Alex is just too high charged up on that Zarya. And that allows Refid to get the res back in, and all of the work Vox Nihili put in, just gone. You were able to pick a tick off the back of it though, and remember, dive is one of those things where if you can have that immediate impact, you'll find a lot of value, but in the long run, you want these ultimates to come up, especially when you're playing Zarya Tracer, but Shakehold have adapted around it. They've split their forces in half. Shade's now occupying the high ground. Fnatic is not going to get as cleanly in as before.
Oh no. Yeah, now getting in the door is just as hard as ever. You're looking along the sideline, but Shade is hunting someone down. That was way too close for comfort, and the ultimates are coming online as well. Oh no, the right click to the dome. Backbone's in the backline. There's honestly bound to be at least another pick here, if not two, Moxie.
They're going to get the Ana Pulse Bomb committed, but you've still done your job if you're Shakehold. You've still bullied Vox Nihili away from your supports. And you've even been able to build up to some really heavy-hitting ultimates before this dive composition. Whole Hog is going to be there to just ensure that even if the hook fails to stop Vox Nihili from getting on the high ground, you're going to be displaced. Graviton's going to be there to try and make sure that Lucia does not get jumped as easily, because if Fnatic's able to get into that backline, you can just grab him away from your Ana. Oh, Alex.
Not much chance of winning this one. Oh, no.
Oh, Alex.
I mean, there's no way to even to deny this Graviton. They know where he is, though. Pops it. It only catches out the Zarya. Nano boost on NKZ to keep him up. Is it enough? No, not quite. Shade takes him out, and it's still Sheer Cold with a man advantage. It was a really good look at a play from Vox Nihili, but it's not going to get him the push quite yet. They're committing, though. They're using everything here, Moxie. What on earth are Vox Nihili thinking?
Proki's going to use that resurrection. Alex is about to hit the Bob, actually goes down as that ultimate gets colored in, and just Sheer Cold are bullying them back to the spawn doors. They panicked. They thought, okay, the Graviton's out, this is our best chance, we'll be able to try and yank that space away from them. Sheer Cold have nothing really to try and bully us out of it this time around. But Sheer Cold just have the picks, and now they've got the high ground again, and now Vox Nihili, 48 seconds left on the clock, have to be able to get as clean a dive as we saw in this opening round yet again, but this time it's going to be into ultimates.
I love this hold from Grafton. He's got the backline, his damage boosted as well. Any threat of a Tracer or Winston going back there is immediately met with the threat of a one-shot from Ash's Viper rifle. Shade's been forced back, though. They do get the dive in successfully, but that Winston is just not long for life. Theo's walking into a small room with a Tracer, a Roadhog, and an Ana. You're just not really going to survive that any times out of 10. With 20 seconds left on the clock, Vox Nihili are looking like they're going to take an L here. Sheer Cold still have full control at this point. They still have such strong positions. It's going to get one more push in, and Vendetta has a pulse bomb to try and make it work. Can Vox Nihili hold on in this series? Come down the next couple seconds. Backbone searching for the back line. First stick onto this RU, no longer has a bubble, does manage to connect. It takes him down. 1 for 1. Ref falls though. No threat of the resurrect. Meanwhile, Froki gets one of his own. Vox Nihili definitely can do this.
But Alex still has that graviton, and they're going to use it. They know that they can still win this door. They're full committing, and Vox Nihili are bullied off the point yet again.
I don't know what I can say, Moxie. I mean, it was a solid attempt from Vox Nihili. That first dive looked like the best thing that we'd seen from them in a long time. The first map was so close. But everything after that, I mean, everything from the second they stepped foot onto Volskaya looked like Sheer Cold was quite frankly just cyberbullying, and something clicked on Sheer Cold's side, and it feels like the comms on Vox Nihili's side may have been the issue, because when you see things fall apart like that, when you see them use all their ultimates in an unwinnable fight, that often is the issue.
And unfortunately, when you're running dive compositions, or rather half the dive composition, you've got that win start, you have to have that communication. You've got to have that trust flowing in your team. That's why we didn't see them push in when they managed to get that Ana pick in the very first dive of their attack round. They just were too uncertain, and that uncertainty cost them. Because Refid is just there with the Mercy Res, and then the Ana's back, and then Sheer Cold are at full force yet again, and because you've exhausted everything in the first couple seconds of that dive to ensure that Fiamatic stays alive, that Winston bubble, that Zarya bubble, that Ana nade, all gone for the next couple of seconds, Sheer Cold know they've got a window of opportunity where they can just push you out.
I will say this, right? The entire match-wise, Vox Nihili did have some really nice shining moments, right? They played well. On the bright side, they've also gotten arguably their two hardest matchups out of the way, right? That's your 2 losses. You do need to win every other one to really have a shot at one of those contender spots, but you've gotten them out of the way. Sheer Cold, on the other hand, looking dominable right now. The Roadhog is amazing. Grathan's Ash is just as ridiculous. I mean, every player on this team is insane, but ladies and gents, as for our next matchup, it's going to be the Ultimates versus Young and Beautiful, coming in just a bit. And we're back, ladies and gents, a little bit quicker than anticipated. We've got something special on the horizon for you. We have Backbone in the call with us for a quick little interview after a quick little match. I mean, the first map was a little bit dubious, but after that, I mean, you guys were smooth sailing. Backbone, I've got to ask, what was the big difference there, and what clicked for you guys to dominate Vox Nihili in those last 2?
I honestly just think with the better team, and the Ilios was always just going to be the hardest map type to play against that type of comp, and I don't know, I feel like that showed on the other two maps.
And talking of communication, something that we noticed that your team was consistently able to pull off super cleanly was Mercy Reses. How much effort goes into making sure that Rapid is able to just glide in and save a team member?
It's usually something that's called quite clearly, and then everyone knows it's coming up, so there's no confusion or anything. And yeah, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Now, the roses were insanely well timed. You guys got away with, frankly, way too many of them for any Overwatch. I mean, it was impossible to play into you guys. It was like fighting 2 6v6s, one after another, every single time they tried to move in. And you and Grathan got to have a real good time just firing away at the backline of Vox Nihili. What was it like? I'm just taking different angles and poking and prodding constantly, never really having to take a full 6-on-6.
I don't know. It felt pretty easy, to be honest. I just spent half my time being annoying, not really even playing properly. like not really having to do much sometimes and still winning. It was just, yeah, pretty easy.
Do you feel that sort of Tracer's role now then, to be more annoying rather than that sort of kill potential?
Yeah, Tracer's a support right now, in my opinion. You spend half your time just being annoying, and then every now and then you get to be a DPS. Every now and then you get to be a DPS.
Well, you know what? I'll give you a little bit more credit than that. You played amazingly. The pulse bombs were great. You're charging them up real quick, and you were supporting your team perfectly well. Now, as for the rest of your team, is there anyone that you really want to give a shout out before I let you go here? Anyone you feel performed expressively well, or do you think the team as a whole was just on point today?
I think everyone played really well today, but I think Shades has been like putting a lot of work into the hog to actually make it like serviceable, and I feel like he like deserves that, I guess.
You know what? If that hog is serviceable, I don't want to see a good one from Shade. I'll say that much. Big stuff for you guys in the future. Big 3-0. Congrats on being 2-0 currently, and good luck in your future matches.
Thank you.
And now with Backbone out of the way, we can start hopping into our next match. It is the Ultimates versus Young and Beautiful. This one is pretty interesting, isn't it, Mox?
Oh, this is one that I've been looking forward to, Dor, ever since I was checking Young and Beautiful's Twitter earlier today, because they've actually got 2 surprise tanks that they finally revealed, Lolsish and Half-Equal, and those guys have some serious pedigree behind them.
Yeah, I mean, Lolsish, obvious name, right? The guy has been everywhere, insane player. There is somebody, though, that we should really mention who popped off yesterday on the Ultimates. Urki has been playing out of their mind this Contenders trial, so it's definitely not locked up for YaB.
I'm looking forward to it. We got to see Urki yesterday on the Pharah, and he definitely impressed me on that DPS, and I think he impressed you personally on the Ashe as well. And there's a lot of opportunity to run both of those in this day and age. We've seen it on Ilios coming out of the gates. Pharah, when you've got control of that point, can be so devastating to try and shut down if you just don't have the space, don't have the sightlines.
Yeah, Pharah is scary, and we're seeing her run on a lot more maps than we used to, right? People have been running her on Lijiang Control Center, people have been running her wherever they can, but the starting map, Ilios, kind of opens the doors for a Pharah to be run pretty much anywhere.
I mean, Pharah has always been run on Ilios. Even back in the good old days of Overwatch, when you had every single player's hatred of Pharmacy front and center purely because of the way that the map set out. If you have those open sky spacings, then Pharahs can run quite freely, and with how Ilios points, Lighthouse, Well, even Ruins have all of these sort of winding high ground towers, lighthouses, buildings for Pharahs to just hide behind and then drop down on to surprise you with an ultimate. If you're not able to get the read on where she is, you're gonna be going back to spawn in a body bag.
Yeah, not only is the Pharah pick scary, but the Roadhog has been effectively turned into a classic pick of this meta, as much as some people may hate to say it. It's become really common, and we saw the Ultimates run it a good bit yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised to see the exact same thing today. YaB are kind of at that point where I expect nothing less, but with the new tank line, kind of raises the question, how much practice do they have on the new tank composition?
Well, it's definitely going to be something that we're going to be seeing, and whether or not they don't have that sort of gel of a composition, it's going to be very clear to see. However, we are currently in a meta where a lot of these fights go down to 1 versus 1, and so not having that gel, not having that sort of team compositional play is not necessarily going to be a hindrance right now.
And with all that said about these teams, about what we expect to be run, we're seeing what they actually break out in a couple moments when we hop into the map. Ladies and gents, we'll be right back after a quick break. And another quick break gone, another game up. The Ultimates versus Young and Beautiful now on deck. We've got all the players ready and loaded for what is bound to be a really, really great match. Moxie, these two teams are both insanely stacked. The Ultimates continue to get better with every single season of Contenders Trials. Do you think this is the one they might be able to pull it off?
I mean, fingers crossed, this is the one that's definitely most favored in their wheelhouse. Urki is a very strong Pharah and Ashe player. The rest of the team can pull off any sort of tank composition that they want. We've seen Brosen have a really good Roadhog. We've seen that these guys can pull off dive, and the support lineup always are able to keep themselves alive, always able to keep themselves safe, and always able to churn out ultimates when necessary, given that, you know, it's the team's name, you would expect it.
Yeah, and the Ultimates have a team that has been the same for a very long time. They stick together, they play together, they improve together. And that's been a pretty consistent basis for them throughout the entirety of their past two bits of Contenders Trials. YaB have had a lot of change-ups, however. Couple of same names here. There's one that we kind of have to mention before we hop into things. I know we mentioned Lolsish being on the roster, but supposedly in his place, we have EMEA player 0249. We threatened to sue us if we call him anything else. So
But we've never seen him in the same room as Lolsish. So whether or not he is actually remains to be known, but we will be headed off into Ilios. That much is a certainty. And I'm definitely looking forward to what exactly these guys are going to look into. I know I personally got my fingers crossed that we're going to get a little bit of pharmacy on the side of the Ultimates. Chalky Milk, in my opinion, is one of the better Mercies currently running about the Contenders trial scene when it comes to pocketing a Pharah, being able to keep herself safe, and being able to use those reses to actually make sure that people get back into that fight alive and well.
And I think as we kind of got in our interview there, Resurrect comes mostly down to communication. It's not just an individual thing, it's the team backing them up and allowing them to do that, which only goes to show the coordination of the Ultimates.
And you can see that's why they would feel comfortable going with it. These guys have played together for a very long time, and so Chalky Milk knows that Brosen will have his back on the D.Va with Defense Matrix, that Henningsen, if need be, will drop that Winston bubble to keep him safe, and even Fuki on that Tracer will kick up enough of a fuss to keep the attention off the Mercy. That's what this composition is all about, taking the attention away from the rest of the other players to let them do their jobs.
Yeah, and I think opting for your kids on the Echo may be just a comfort pick for them, but the fact that you're running a Lucio Moira with this kind of tells me a little bit of unconfidence when you're running the Mercy Ana, which is generally considered to be the better one. Your kids, though, putting in a lot of damage as the team drops very low. The Ultimates have a great start right now. Look at how low the health bars are for Young and Beautiful, are forced back onto the back foot.
Happy Cool is already out of that D.Va mech, so no peel currently available for EMEA player. Remember though, with that Moira, with that Lucio, you've got a little bit more survivability on your side, so if you lose that D.Va mech, it isn't the be-all and end-all.
No, but the supports are being forced away, those health bars are getting lower and lower, and the longer this fight goes, the more resource Skyrape has to make up, and the Moira just can't do that forever.
Ultimates are able to pick up that first point flip as well, so Young and Beautiful have to decide, do they want to continue fighting this really long fight out, allowing the Ultimates to get that point percentage, or do they want to go for a reset? Your kid's even going to come back onto that Sombra, but Urki is the one that these guys have to worry about. Joe, that barrage is so close to being full.
When Urki gets in, when Urki gets back from spawn, you're feeling pretty good, but until then, Chalky Milk, a little bit of trouble. Fuki blinks into the pulse bomb, but Urki's made it back. He's taking out Happy Cool. The res comes through, and the Ultimates have turned this one around.
Henningsen using that Primal Rage to bully people away from the Mercy to make sure that Chalky Milk's able to pull that one off. And it's allowed Urki to hit that barrage with the safety network in full swing. Young and Beautiful, because they decided to go in on that fight, or have already sacrificed almost 50%. And your kids, swapping onto that Sombra before it began, only 50% to that EMP, which means Happy Cool's mech is gonna have to blow up with a big bang. Otherwise, you don't have anything that can bully the Ultimates off this point just yet.
Maybe you get that Sombra up in time, but it's going to be real close here. EMEA players dropping pretty low. Surmaja's out of the way. If this Resurrect comes through, though, the Ultimates will be feeling just fine. And you know they're camping that body. They're making sure it's happening. EMEA player goes down, though. You've traded a Winston for an Ana, and that's definitely not worth. The Ultimates are going to have the first spawn. They're going to get back first. They can control this fight but that's if they can stop Young and Beautiful from getting a couple more picks off the back of HappyCool first.
But Urki's impact is effectively cut in half right now because Young and Beautiful are the ones controlling the spacing. So every time the Pharah boosts herself up into view, she's exposing herself to your kids on that Sombra, to HappyCool on that D.Va. Every single time, it's a death sentence.
And now look at the ultimate for Young and Beautiful. This is going to be really hard for the ultimates to turn back.
Yeah, especially with this EMP bomb combo that you have going in. It's not the Graviton, but it's still going to go off with an absolute bang. And so the ultimate's just trying to figure out where the Sombra is. But Henningsen gets hacked out.
Oh, they found him in not quite the way they wanted to by their Winston dropping down to just a sliver of HP. Young and Beautiful now with pretty much 6 ultimates up have everything they could ever want to defend this point. No, they don't. They've lost 2 players. They're 2 players down from everything they might want. They're 2 ultimates down from everything they might want. The ultimates have a huge advantage here. Young and Beautiful, yes, you have the ultimates, but you don't quite have the advantage yet. They're trading their way back through off the back of this coalescence, though.
But the ultimates still have Urki still with that Barrage. Shocky Moke's gone down, but so too is Young and Beautiful. Syndra is invested before the ultimate comes out from the Pharah.
They're contesting this one to the end, and I'm not sure if I like the decision from the ultimates to back away, but it's the one they're making right now as Brewston's been forced off. Fuki still finding kills on this point, though. They found the re-engage. They've got the supports, they've got the tanks, and they'll take it right back over.
And they've still got ultimates to boot as well, though. This next fight is going to be devastating if Young and Beautiful aren't able to come off with an early pick. Because Urki can just land that barrage, you're going to have the network there to make sure that he's safe. You can even put Primal Rage to make sure everyone's occupied, attention away from the Pharah to let us survive it.
So many ultimates on board. This is going to be so hard for Young and Beautiful. They need an early pick off the back of Jonah. You kids, EMEA players, somebody please relieve them from the danger that is Fuki. He's finding kills everywhere. Last fight, this fight, it doesn't matter. This time, he's just got a pulse bomb to boot. The ultimates come away with a big win off the back of a fight that they probably shouldn't have won.
I mean, they just stubbornly stick in that fight. They know if that flip comes through, then they will hit those ultimates far faster than Young and Beautiful. And Young and Beautiful did play that neutral game very well. Were able to deal with Urki very well on that far when Barrows wasn't available. But when we see those circles get their check marks colored in, it's a completely different story because Young and Beautiful had to just put so much in. They didn't have anything left when it actually was important. And moving forward onto Ruins, is it going to be the exact same risk? You've got to be able to keep a handle of this ultimate economy. It doesn't matter whether Urki's going to be coming out on that Sombra or the Pharah. It's still doing the exact same thing on this support lineup. It's still drawing your attention off the dive, thus crumbling its impact.
Ooh, full last second swap here, though. It's on to the Roadhog Zarya. We talked about Bruce and Henningsen being very good performers on this, but they need to make up for the lack of damage in their DPS line. When you're running a Sombra Widowmaker, you need people getting picks, and they're already starting off right with your kids going down. The Lucio's next, and Henningsen is sparing nobody on his way into point.
This is brawl like we've never seen it. The Lucio's there to ensure that Henningsen can get into the fight far faster, that he isn't just in slack of ult charge. And once he's in position, he's just a one-man wrecking crew.
He could jump up this ledge. A little too fast to do that. But Skyreaper comes to him, so you know what? Maybe just baits him up there. Young and Beautiful still not having the greatest time making it out on this point. With no main support, it's not likely they're going to get to.
Henningsen building so close to that whole hog as well. HappyCool on that D.Va mech is going to be out of defense matrix if Young and Beautiful aren't able to shut this down, and that's what you're relying on. HappyCool being there with defense matrix long enough for your kids to be able to get the hack going through because you're not running that Ana, you don't have the sleep dart. They'll be coming in for coalescence for sure, but Urki's going to have an EMP and he doesn't even need that to cancel the Moira's ultimate out.
Very little going the way of Young and Beautiful right now. If they could take down this Roadhog, they're feeling pretty good. Good bubble, though, to deny the heals from Henningsen. Now it's all about making sure you win the fight afterwards. Fuki is still a monster on the Tracer! It doesn't matter what you do, this guy's gonna come up in the kill feed. It's a full commit from the ultimates. They're going in for it. The Winston's out. Urki and Fuki are having the time of their lives right now, Moxie.
They do put a little bit much into that fight, though. Urki invests the EMP, and now Young and Beautiful are going to be feeling a lot more confident. They've got an EMP of their own. They're going to have the coalescence. It's not the sound barrier, but it's still something that enables your aggression, that allows you to walk forward. However, you've got to walk forward quickly. Brushing is inches away from that graviton.
But look at how the ultimates are playing. They're so spread out. This EMP won't catch more than 1 or 2 people, but because of that, it leaves them open to being picked apart by just the dive. I love this from the EMEA player. Into the backline, the Ana is bound to fall here. Fuki is still alive, though. And Urki. Oh my god, the DPS lineup of the ultimates right now just doesn't stop Moxie.
But the supports are gone, and EMEA will have that primal rage. However, they still haven't got the split.
No, it's all the way to 99%, and Young and Beautiful, I mean, as you hold on to the MP, but it's kind of bittersweet here because the ultimates are going to come in with one as well.
But you can hold it over Chalky Milk's head. That Lucio cannot drop the ultimate until your kid puts his in first, and now we're going to be at a stalemate. A stalemate which empowers Young and Beautiful as the ones possessing the point.
I mean, for me, I want to see proactivity right now from the ultimates. They haven't held anything back before. They shouldn't hold anything back now. You get that EMP online. Let's see him pop it. Urki is in, has the first, and he does pop it aggressively, putting all the members down. No abilities available. They're taking full control of the point as the whole hog pushes their remaining players off of it. 99% as they take it back over Moxie. It's all up to Young and Beautiful. They have the ultimates, but they don't have the time.
They need to get the stagger in. EMEA is able to get the primal rage, buys just enough time. Your kids now needs to hit the mother of all EMPs for this team to come back from the brink.
Well, they use everything. They still have an EMP. Chalky Milk didn't get hit by the EMP. He was hit, hiding, lying in wait. He timed it perfectly. His team's going to survive off the back of that. Now Fuki gets to go to town on point. Brewston's low here, but it's not looking great for Young and Beautiful. So now they have to do it the old-fashioned way with bullets and elbow grease. Fuki look for the back line. Jonah's taken down. It's next. The Wrecking Ball in sight. Lands a pulse bomb. Look for the support line. Can he get his big question? That would be the end of this.
You can see as well that the ultimates just are able to have that little bit more target focus though. Young and Beautiful, Yona was the only one close enough to hit an ultimate, and the Trace is immediately swept aside by the entire team.
And with the Mori out of the way as well as the Lucio, it's not long for life for Young and Beautiful. The Wrecking Ball falls, the ultimates reassert their dominance. A beautiful final fight played by them. What an impressive first map.
What impressive Sombra play as well. My goodness, the read that the ultimates had on Young and Beautiful was perfect. They know that an EMP is coming in. They know that Young and Beautiful are going to be very careful about how they handle it. They don't want to put EMP in until Chalky Milks drop that ultimate first. And so they just wrangle control of the pacing of the fight out of that team's hands, slip it back into their own fingers, and go with it.
That was one of the nastiest final fight sequences I've seen in a while. And coming from someone who tries to play organized Overwatch, at least collegiately, having the presence of mind, knowing you both have EMP, backing away, setting the honey trap, moving in, timing your EMP perfectly because you know Young and Beautiful have to contest this point, so they move in with all 6. It's a huge EMP that you win with. Then you back away your Lucio, follow that up with another perfectly timed sound barrier. Like, that was 2 of the best fights I have seen in Trials in maybe the last 2 or 3 sessions of it.
And I've got to say now, Chalky Milk being able to hide with that Sound Fire harkens back to Refid with that Valkyrie able to hide out from the exact same ultimate and just come in with the sustainability, keep the team alive. Because that EMP could have been huge. It hit members from the ultimates. It hit 3 of them, but it doesn't catch the Lucio out. And if Young and Beautiful had an ultimate, Soundfire wouldn't have mattered. They'd have been able to clear that extra health bar off. However, they only had Coalescence, and it isn't popped as soon as EMP goes down. And so all the ultimates need is the extra little bit of health to just stay stubbornly on that point.
The ultimate, I am blown away right now. The ultimates look insane. Like, every time we see them, it feels like they just get that little bit of power back. But like you said earlier, this meta is so ideal for them. Like, as perfect as it gets, especially with Urki and Fuki as your DPS line. We talked a little bit about the coordination there and how heads up they're playing. They know what ultimates the other team is going to have. They're reacting to them perfectly. Not only are they doing that, they have DPS that are getting picks constantly at a constant rate throughout the match, whether it's picks, whether it's during fights, and whether it's clutching it out. Urki and Fuki have constantly showed up.
And unfortunately for Young and Beautiful, they just haven't really been able to stop them. We haven't seen them lean hard into the counterplay. We haven't seen what happens when Fuki and Urki go up against something like a McCree, which going into somewhere like Volsky, not the most likely. However, they've still got to face some form of hit scan. And that, for me, has got to come in the form of Ashe. It backs you into the corner, you're forced to put the Mercy in so you can have the damage boost and make her a little bit more brutal than something you can just swipe off your shoulder. But going to Volskaya, looking at how that map is set up, all of the high ground ledges, all of the sightlines that are open to you, Ashe is pretty much perfectly slotted in.
Not only is the Ashe perfectly slotted in, I'm expecting to see more Roadhog, Moxie. I mean, after what we saw in the previous series, you'd better hope we're seeing more Roadhog. It seemed really strong for the ultimates, young and beautiful, yet to show us anything similar. Do you think we're going to get that opportunity? Because I think it's something they definitely should be opting for.
I think it's really punishing them. They're trying to run traditional dive with that Winston, with that D.Va, in a meta where that doesn't really work anymore. Because there's just so much available now that counteracts it. The Sombra was in play, so the Winston or D.Va would get hacked out. You can't go for the backline because suddenly there's a Roadhog hook yanking you out of position. In fact, a lot of the time when we see those Winstons go for the jumps, if they don't have that Zarya bubble to actually cushion that fall and enable them to actually hit that full jump, they get hooked out halfway through, and suddenly you're in the worst possible position. You've just used your best escape tool to get yourself into a death trap.
I mean, that's the struggle, though, is just the neutral game for dive. It is possible. You just have to play it really well, and more specifically on the right maps, one that Volskaya really isn't. Yes, there's high ground there for you to attack, but getting through the door, getting past that Ashe, getting past the Roadhog, it's almost a necessity to run one of your own. Just get through that door insanely fast. And come to think of it, I think actually going around the left side of the map may be a reasonable option for avoiding that Roadhog at the choke.
It's definitely one that is there. It's a little bit time consuming and you want to just immediately try and identify a target. And that's the risk when you go left side. You have no information on where that defending side is going to be set up in. So if you go left side and your entire team or just 2 tanks go there, and they find a Roadhog bouncing an Ashe with a Mercy pocket to boot, you're going to be shredded and sent packing in seconds. However, it does allow you to safely get a distraction in, which should provide safe passage for the rest of your team to maneuver their way from that first choke underneath that arch into the sanctity of side rooms.
Well, we'll see which way they go. We'll see if Young and Beautiful change up their composition as we hop into Volskaya. Ladies and gents, it is currently 1-0 for the Ultimates, looking to send us on to match point. Moxie, I'm real curious to see whether they lock in the Winston D.Va again. They do.
Oh, this hurts. You're going to have You're going to have that same idea of composition, right? Get into the back, destroy it from the inside out. But where's the win condition? Where's the ultimate that is immediately going to win them a fight? It's not going to be Bob. That's going to be used for peel or deny point pressure. You don't have anything to couple up with the pulse bomb. In fact, if EMEA goes for the Primal Rage or Hafiko goes for the D.Va Bomb, you're going to be doing the exact opposite thing that you want. You're going to be sending them running in different directions, so Pulse Bomb's only going to catch one out. Look at what the Ultimates are going to run out with in difference to that. Urki on the Sombra. There's your win condition. EMP with anything that this team decides to use as follow-up.
Yeah, the Sombra option is really nice for 2CP especially. It gives you that guaranteed win condition to follow up on, but with both the teams running dive, you can't fault either of them, I suppose, because neither of them have to deal with that Roadhog struggle anymore. I do like this option on the defensive side. It's a bit of a mix-up, and honestly, the Ultimates look good on whatever they play, so you can't really fault them for it.
Well, you do have to keep an eye on Urki, though. That Sombra is going to be the thing that the Ultimates are relying to get themselves safely onto this point. And it is cutting the impact of Young and Beautiful's frontline in half right now. EMEA and Hafiko are just too scared to go anywhere near where the Sombra could be. They can't move away from the rest of their team.
Just the threat of Urki behind them is so devastating. They've made a good bit of progress over the point here. Jonah still has a good position, though. Has some nice sight lines. Not if Urki's in his face. Good dynamite. Takes some damage onto the team. With 3 minutes left, they're starting to tick up the point. This was a very clean attack from the Ultimate so far. They have a nano to boot. If they throw Henningsen into that doorway with a nano boost, Young and Beautiful are going to die in an instant.
They're going to give it to your kid so he can get Pulse Bomb online. Unfortunately, The Young and Beautiful, they're just not able to do that. They die so quickly, though. They stuff themselves up inside room. The peel was there as soon as Urki showed himself. The Winston and the D.Va both off the point to try and help that backline. EMEA, because he's just so low, he needs to be back by his Ana's side. But now you just use one of your best tools at trying to slow the ultimates down, because you'll have that Bob for sure. You can put it onto the point when the ultimates come calling, but it's not gonna have that nano boost, and it can be shut down by a sleep dart or even Urki getting the hack off.
Yeah, there is such a danger of steamrolling this point, snowballing it over. I love the aggression from YaB though. They're throwing it a lot early to try and shut down this push. If it doesn't work though, it's gonna bite them in the butt. It's not working, Moxie. They've got the trades, they've got the reds. The ultimates are gonna come in here with so many ultimates as well. Urki just 30% away from the EMP.
Tactical had to use the D.Va bomb as well just to dissuade the ultimates a second longer on getting onto that point. EMEA will be coming in with the Primal Rage though, but the ultimates are giving the defense a breathing room on purpose though. They know they're so close to EMP, so imagine going down, still you'll have that Mercy res. You just have to buy the space to get it off.
EMP bomb is such a nice combo for them. How many does it catch is a big question. Throws into the back line. Nothing from the bomb, but they've separated away the tanks and supports, force them back, drop those health bars. The ultimate's looking at point B right now. Yes, Yona gets rezzed. There's only so much one Ash can do.
He's so close to that Bob though. If EMEA is able to come in with the Primal and the Ana is able to hit that Nano, oh, never mind. The Ana is gonzo, and Young and Beautiful's chances at getting this point back disappearing alongside.
Now with the Bob being thrown on, it's effectively 6 versus 7. Yes, you take down Fuki, but he already got the Bob off. The nail's already in the coffin. 3:50 on the clock. They do get a Bob in. This is another contest. You could throw the on afterwards, but 3 minutes and 45 seconds is really hopeful thinking from YaB. All they can do is try and chip away at this time bank.
No one can stop Urki. The dude's on an absolute tear, and so everything that Young and Beautiful tries to put into just contesting that point with mobility a little bit longer gets hacked out. And Hammonds are just easy pickings when they can't roll around Zor. The spin cycle is not set up. And unfortunately for Young and Beautiful, the time bank is not in their favor. 3 minutes, 38 seconds for the entirety of Volskaya left in the Ultimates bank if it comes to it.
How do you match that if you're YaB? In fact, what I'm even more scared of is how do you match that if the Ultimates bring out a Roadhog here? Because that defense could be really scary.
You've got to have snowball potential. You've got to be able to walk away from point A with ultimates still circled up for you so that you can just put constant pressure on this defense.
There's a little bit of a reprieve as there isn't a Roadhog on the other side, so they don't have to deal with Henningsen walking at them anymore, but it's still going to be a bit of a struggle if Urki's in their backline. Clearly it's YaB with everything to prove, which is, it's just crazy that I'm saying that about Young and Beautiful, a team that we've seen dominate in Contenders trials, but they do have something to prove now. You bring in a new tank line, and yes, they've got pedigree, but they're not integrated into the team quite yet. This is a big match for them.
Especially if you're going to be running that Lucio. With, well, you do want to have that Lucio for that little bit of extra speed boost, but your kid's sitting on that Symmetra for that teleporter strategy means like Dollar is likely to be sticking around it, and I like this. Oh, there it goes. I was going to say, it's going to have to Soundra, you'll be able to counteract Urki's EMP impact, but Dollar's going to be going onto the Mercy to try and help Yona's impact instead. That means that Young and Beautiful are going to be putting a lot onto Happy Cool Zarya Peel.
I think it calls them and to watch. It's the big difference between the D.Va and the Zarya. The Zarya just got a lot more damage, but you can try and shut down some of those big plays. I've been digging the eats on the Dynamites. Brucein is an exceptional D.Va player. But you haven't held your ground. YaB have gained a lot here. You throw the Winston into the back line. That Mega Room becomes a blender. YaB playing this one exceptionally so far, but they've still got to deal with the DPS line, who have been the bane of their existence, Moxie.
They've still got to cancel that res out on the Ana as well. Chucky Mug. Looks like he wants to go for it. They've definitely got the space provided, especially with Henningsen jumping into the team, trying to keep Young and Beautiful away from the Mercy.
One other big difference here is the health packs. They can lose as many supports as they like. You still have Urki up. The Mega Pack is coming back every 10 or so seconds. That Mini Pack is effectively just an instant heal for whoever is standing on it. The tanks can go wherever they want. They don't have to rely on that Ana. You start retaking the space, and the Ultimates are feeling pretty good about this hold right now, even though Young and Beautiful gained all that space back.
They use Ultimate Store. They use that nano boost to try and get that dive properly onto the high ground, but the ultimates are able to just beat them back. First the sleep, and then the bob of their own. And the ultimate's holding strong. They've got the nano boost, they'll have the primal rage. All of that is going to buy you all of the time you need for Urki to be able to hit this EMP. And now here's the difficulty, here's the thing that I disliked about Young and Beautiful's composition. When you're running that Lucio, you've got the immediate counter action. When you're running the Mercy Ana, you're going to be able to save one person, maximum two, if the EMP and follow-up comes through.
Yeah, this is the advantage of a defense, or Sombra rather, is the fact that the opposing team is forced to stick together. They don't have an option but to eat a 6-man EMP. They're trying to avoid using it though, trying to win this fight without that EMP. If they could hold that and just hold it over Young and Beautiful's head, that'd be fantastic. With your kids already gone, they might be able to do exactly that. Urki walking down to the Bob in a bit of trouble. Oh boy, this Winston, this poor guy. Oh no, EMEA player. Is this going to be the EMP from Urki? He's fully committing to this. I don't exactly like that decision. They had already almost won the fight, but Henningsen goes a little bit too deep. Kind of rough decisions there at the end, but it's going to give Young and Beautiful a chance at this next one.
But there's the writing on the wall, though. Even though the ultimates invested the EMP far too late into a fight, Young and Beautiful aren't going to be able to punish them for it. They'll have the Graviton, they'll have the Nano Boost, but the ultimates have fail-safes. If the Graviton isn't eaten by Brayson, then you've got Self-Destruct or the Bob to peel for it. If there's a Primal Raging Winston or a Nano Boost, then Chalky Milk can just bark and save the team.
Oh my god. EMA player can't catch a break, dude. And I haven't seen Thermaja miss her sleep in the past 5 minutes, I'm pretty sure. Fuki still gets to farm from the high ground, throwing in a Bob. The Nano Boost did next to nothing. The ultimates are playing out of their minds right now. Somebody from Young and Beautiful needs to show up right now. Somebody needs to carry, but your kids goes down with a pulse bomb in hand. EMEA player can get one, but that might just be it for this push. It's only going to give him a chance at the next.
Ultimates as well, gonna just be able to hold on to this. Remember, Young and Beautiful, with 30 seconds left on the clock, are gonna be walking straight into this defense, straight into the dive. And the longer they wait, the more the ultimates are able to recruit and point in ultimate charge. And that means that Urki is going to be able to hit overtime with an EMP.
I love this adaptation right now from the ultimates. They're playing exceptionally well. Can your kids connect this pulse bomb though? It's really their only chance at getting into this fight before Urki pops that EMP and ends it all. 5 seconds on the clock. EMEA player down. YaB slowly bleeding out. The EMP is there. Lands one on to Happy Cool. No more tanks. It's just supports and DPS running on to this point. Desperation hell. They don't even get the try. The ultimates continue their streak here in the game, setting us up at match point 2-0.
And the DPS continue that deadly rain, though. That Sombra was just not shut down because Young and Beautiful, they tried to go for that backline. They tried very similar actually to the last series that we saw, to aggress onto the high ground with the Winston and think that that's enough just to get that setup, that you've done your job and call it a day. However, there is nothing that allows that Winston's jump to come in cleanly. Every single time, even when he's got nano, he gets slapped, he gets hacked, he gets shredded, and he doesn't get to play Overwatch.
It wasn't just the Winston, no, right? It was Thermaja who was being a pain in his butt. Rightfully so, because Thermaja went down a couple times. That's what I kind of want to talk about, Moxie, is how they changed their play, because there were a lot of fights that the Ultimates won 5 versus 6 while their Ana was still coming back from spawn. And so many times, it came down to the fact that that Sombra had 2 health packs hacked the entire game. There was an adaptation that they made every single time they lost Thermaja. They would move from playing the back high ground down to playing in Mega Room in very, very close quarters on point, waiting for the Ana to get back, and then the second the Ana gets back, they rotate back around, set the Ashe back up on high ground, knowing that they have that sleep dart at their mercy to use to defend. I mean, they have a contingency plan for everything.
And Young and Beautiful could not contest that side room because the dive needs to come in when the members are separated out, when you're vulnerable. When the Ultimates were playing so closely together with that med pack to fall back in on when things got dicey, the Winston can't jump in, the D.Va can't jump in. All the Ashe can do is spam damage from on top of the high ground on the other side and hope that it's enough. That being a constant pressure on that point is going to do the job and draw the Ultimates out from the hiding spot. But when they do get drawn out, the Ana's back, they've got both supports, they've got all of the aggression that they need, and you're just bullied right back off that point.
So now, Mox, we've seen YaB lose to the Ultimates in Dive, in Double Bubble, and we've seen them lose in Roadhog Zarya. What's next? We're going to Hollywood. It's likely we see Roadhogs on the first point, Dive on the second, and where does it get better for YaB? How do you improve this? I don't think it's a compositional thing. I think individually the Ultimates are having a hell of a day running circles around them.
A lot of it is down to the fact that these DPS, these tanks, these supports have played together a very long time. You can see it. Every single time that these guys go in aggressively, they know how each other is going to be playing. Every single time that they lose a player, they change up their playstyle entirely because they understand the absence that forms in their composition. And suddenly their win condition has changed. Suddenly when you're missing an Ana, you can't be taking enough damage. Suddenly you can't be going as aggressively as when you've got two supports up. And Young and Beautiful, I think we're seeing the cracks. They just announced these two tanks coming in, and this is a meta where you need to have that trust in your tank lineup. You can try and take these fights individually, but not when the ultimates just make sure that every single time you're forced to play as a team.
Yeah, the team difference and communication seem to be the real issue here. We'll see if they can fix it up. Hollywood will be the decider for right now. I'm expecting Roadhog on the first point. I want to see bigger things out of this tank line, though. I mean, the reaction on Twitter alone was ridiculous. I mean, you see a tank line of Lulsish and Havical, and you're like, man, those guys are stacked. How on earth are they going to lose a game? Yeah. Oh, EMEA, pardon me. How are they going to lose a game? This is how. This is how you exploit a team that just brings in star talent like that. You abuse the fact that they haven't been playing together too long. You pick them apart at the seams. That's exactly what the Ultimates have done. One more map they have to get through to get a clean 3-0 and continue on into, frankly, bound to be a really good run through Trials.
I think Young and Beautiful just got handed the really wrong end of the stick today when it comes to that map pool as well, though. Because you think about all of these maps that we saw yesterday. Places like Junkertown, where tanks can individually pop off, DPS can individually pop off, and it's a lot easier for that individual player to be able to carry a team to victory. Volskaya has all of these spaces where teams can just call back into themselves and become a sort of porcupine where every time you go near them, the spikes are just going to prick your fingers. Hollywood has that same mechanic. It's got a lot of places for this defensive side to just huddle up on the inside in and poke away at you if you come close enough.
Back to the Roadhog. Back to the same old issues. This is what I was scared of on Volskaya, Moxie. We saw the full hold before. I'm kind of expecting it again if they can't get past this choke. YaB need everything in their power. And honestly, I think that one of those DPS players really needs to show up right now. I'm looking at you, kids. They need to find some kills in the feed early on in these fights.
Especially because Simajed with that Ana is going to be extremely vulnerable if the peel is denied. You've just got to actually be able to set that one up because the ultimates with this composition are just running anti-Sombra. You've got the coach gun, you've got the hook, you've got the Zarya bubble. All of this is just going to deny your kids impact. And there it goes.
Oh my god, this guy can't catch a break. They've already lost one, and yes, you've made it onto the point. Congratulations, you're one step closer to meeting that Roadhog face to face. Henningsen is giving them a chunk full of scrap to the face constantly. Yet EMEA player still manages to stay alive until Brucein takes him down. There's still plenty of players in this back room. The Ultimates, yes, they disengage. Yes, they gave up the point, but they can totally look for a re-engage here.
Henningsen is going to be so close to that whole hook, but he goes down. And Young and Beautiful are able to pick up point A. They sacrificed your kids. And so the Ultimates see where the Sombra is, know that they have to go after her, and that allows their attention to be drawn away from the rest of the team, who simply walk forward, and EMEA is suddenly in a very good position. Henningsen just used his hook. Brucein just used the bubble to deny the Sombra. He can leap forward, he can build up 60% of the Primal Rage, and point B is where we see Winston have the most value on this map.
Yeah, things are going really well for Young and Beautiful, uncharacteristically so. Today has been a rough one for them, but if they can control this Hollywood map, set a solid time bank, I'm feeling great about what they might be able to do. Comboing the dive with a bomb over top, it catches two more staggers. Great combo there by Young and Beautiful. It's going to send them on to final fight territory on B.
Yeah, you can see the Ultimates. They know They know that they've lost that next fight. Fuki's just gonna feed himself right into the blender. And for Young and Beautiful, they will be coming into this with the EMP, but they use that Diva Bomb to be able to secure themselves all of the spacing. That follow-through is going to have to come in the form of a lot of aggression enabled by the Science Barrier, or rather on its own to make up for the absence of the Tracer.
It's an aggressive EMP from Young and Beautiful, but there's a threat. Urki still has theirs to come over top at any point in time, but no! Even with EMP, Urki said they didn't have anything to use with it. I didn't know they weren't going to use bullets either. They're not able to find anything but one kill off the back of that.
Dollar is going to be in that precarious position now. He's got to hide. He cannot be caught out by Urki's blast, because if he is, Frozen's got the Graviton, Henningsen's got the Whole Hog. And Whole Hog normally pushes people away. That's why you don't normally die to it, Dora. Since that distance is widened, you take less. That's not the same when a Graviton is holding people in place. You've got to take every single one of those scraps, and so Happy and Dollar have got to step up in these next seconds.
I mean, there's so many ultimates. The big thing for the ultimates I want to see is them hold back. Pop the EMP, follow it up properly, take out both of those supports, then start working on the tanks, and hold some in the tank. They're going to be pretty big here, though, honestly. Not sure why they're going to go for that grab, but you know what? They use it, and they still have some left.
But Young and Beautiful can use that as an opening of their own. Happy Cool does not have to keep the mech. Dollar does not have to keep the Science Barrier for the Graviton to be cancelled out with its impact. Instead, you've got to worry about Henningsen and Fuki. Both of these guys have ultimates that can be enabled massively by Simajid's Nano Boost. And then you double that up with Chucky Milk's Valkyrie. Young and Beautiful are going to have a lot of sustain, but they've got to get picks off of that.
They're really push. Good hack, though. They can start with an engage off the back of a sound barrier and coalescence. They're layering their support ultimates. It's not the wisest thing here. The ultimates are going to be able to come in right after those. In fact, they get away with the res. Happy Cool's bomb only takes down Chucky Milk. The fight breaking down more and more as every second passes.
But Young and Beautiful coming back into this. Having to deal with Henningsen will be coming in with that EMP, will be coming in with that Primal Rage. Sombra goes down though, Dor, so this is going to be the attacking team. They've got to just reset themselves as fast as possible so that they can come in for the proper push.
I mean, 2 words, Moxie. Spawn advantage. The ultimates are playing it so well, but Young and Beautiful, they can win this next one.
They've got the EMP. They don't have anything like a Diva Bomb to try and capitalize on it coming out. They don't have the Sign Barrier, they don't have the Coalescence. They invested really heavily on in that last fight, but they can use that Primal Rage to distract from the rest of the team. However, both these Sombras are having ultimates right now. These guys, it's all going to come down to who hits that EMP up first. Young and Beautiful cannot be cowed.
I actually want to see Urki use the EMP second. I want to see a counter EMP here used extremely strongly, especially right after EMEA player pops his. Fuki's wasting time, though, taking down Jonah. The kid's for the aggressive EMP. Urki got caught with it, though. He was too impatient on the roof. He's taken down before he can pop his own. This is great for Young and Beautiful. They've got to find more out of it, though. There's still a hog in their backline. They got to deal with the EMEA player, not Wolfish, mind you, is going for the tanks, taking them down one by one. It might just have clutched this one out for his team.
Urki will be coming into this next fight, though, with that EMP that Young and Beautiful denied. And so, you're going to have to take this next one on the chin. You've just got to bait it out of the Sombra. And then you can carry that momentum forward. Hold on to your Coalescence so it doesn't get cancelled out. Hold on to the bomb so you can push the ultimates away from this contest. Young and Beautiful are going to have to play passively.
Passively is not what you want to be doing when Urki has an EMP up. Honestly, that last fight was the first time I think I've been disappointed in their EMP usage. I think if they stayed on the high ground, went for a counter one, they would have been great, but he just got a little bit too antsy. Now they can use it aggressively. It's no surprises. They're not really struggling in this fight. They finish it off like they have every other EMP they've popped. It's just a real worry when your kids get TIDs back online.
But Young and Beautiful played passively when it comes to that Coalescence. So Scapiria does not get it cancelled out by the Sombra ultimate, though. They use the Diva Bomb, yes, but that Coalescence can be what they use to just plunk open that door, allow themselves to insert themselves into that point, hit an EMP of their own, and fight the ultimates back.
In come the ultimates with ultimates of their own, though. Your kids doesn't quite have that EMP online. In fact, it's a very skinny push from the ultimates. They waited a long time to use those ultimates, thus they're gonna have some for the next fight after winning it off the back of a great whole hog.
Henningsen came up clutch. He's able to deny the Sombra any sort of staying power, and so Young and Beautiful can't use the Coalescence to sustain themselves until EMP is online, and now they're going to have to use it with the sound barrier. And Brucein, he's got the Diva Bomb that can wipe all of that health away.
Brucein to counter the EMP here in just a moment. Dala still has a sound barrier, though. So many great ultimates for Young and Beautiful. But this card's just a little bit too far away. It's not quite one fight territory. Searching for the Roadhog, though. YaKid's waiting for an opportunity to pop this EMP, but everybody's staying on the sideline. The ultimates are playing really passive, but in doing that, they've allowed the card to push a decent way. This is now last fight territory, trading 1-for-1. Brucein goes down, but it's the EMEA player on the other side. You've lost your main tank, you've lost your Winston, and they lost YaKids with the EMP! Their sound barrier, they commit to it! Both teams popping so many ultimates, but Young and Beautiful catching the short end of the stick.
But Young and Beautiful, because they lost the Sombra, they weren't able to EMP. Chalky Milk feels safe enough to use that sound barrier. If the Sombra is able to get back into this fight, 10 seconds left, they can still take this back.
It's the ultimates with the close response right now. They need a clean fight. EMP catches 3 for Young and Beautiful. They've got to follow up on it, though. They've only got Bruce and Chucky Milk next to follow the cart, pushing forward. All the meanwhile, 3 members uncontested. It's all up to the Hog. Can Henningsen get a solid ultimate off? No! It's Young and Beautiful reaching the end of the map with 0 seconds on the timer.
The ultimates got a little bit overconfident there. They see the Sombra going down. They know the threat of EMP is temporarily disabled. And so they use the sound barrier, thinking if they're able to push Young and Beautiful successfully away far enough back from that card, they won't be able to get that overtime contest. They won't be able to get YaKids back into the fray. That doesn't happen because Skipper has the Coalescence, and that allows Young and Beautiful to stay in that fight long enough for the Sombra to come back in with the ultimate that suddenly the ultimates don't have anything equipped to deal with.
I feel like the Sombra was really good from YaKids for the most part. Solid EMP, solid all around. But I think the worry comes in when you talk about Erky, who is likely going to be building up those significantly faster given just comfort on the hero. If the ultimates get through point A with a solid time bank, I'm going to really start worrying Moxie, because all they have to do is just complete this map with a little bit of extra time in the bank, and that one tick is all but guaranteed for them.
And I'm worried looking at what Young and Beautiful currently have lined up for their defense. It's not going to be the Roadhog. It's going to be that aggressive dive. Once again, trusting no peel for your backline, hoping that they'll be able to save themselves, the Lucy with the speed boost, the Moira with the fade. Those have cooldowns, the Moira especially, and so if the ultimates are able to bait that one out early, or if Erky's able to get the hack onto Dala, this death sentence is as good as signed because Hafikool is playing babysitter with EMEA on that front line.
Oh, but the forest swap. Erky is a madman.
no.
I love this read. I love this read, Moxie.
Oh no, they are not equipped to deal with this. The only thing that can contest this Pharah is Hafikool using those boosters to get up into the Pharah's base.
I mean, you can contest it. You can't kill it, though. So much damage being thrown in. You only last as long as your Winston's bubble if you're Young and Beautiful. They've been pushed back into a corner. The health bar's dropping low. Yes, you've got the better of the 2 picks, but while Erky's in the air, nothing is safe yet, Moxie.
YaKids is able to get the hack onto the Pharah, though, and so he is temporarily grounded. The Mercy not having anyone to really fly to in those couple of seconds. Vulnerable. Enough for EMEA to chip down low enough and Yona to finish off the kill, and for now the ultimates have been beaten back. However, they'll be coming into this next fight very close to that Primal Rage, and Chalky Milk on that Mercy means that even though Young and Beautiful have a Coalescence to sustain, Chalky Milk has the ability to get someone fallen back into the fight far faster.
Yeah, I think whether or not that res comes out is going to be a real big deciding factor in something fight. It's a lot harder to do it on the attack, though, especially when you're being engaged on by Young and Beautiful. Very aggressive push here with the Coalescence, very decisive, something we haven't seen from them the entire game so far. And honestly, Moxie, I'm loving it.
Oh, my sentiment exactly. They know that Chalky Milk's the problem. They know Erky only matters when the Mercy is there to keep him safe, to keep those rockets damage boosted. And so they go so aggressively into Chalky Milk, the Diva, the Coalescence, everything put onto the support lineup, and the ultimates just don't have the peel available to try and save the Mercy, and then they don't have the support to stay in that fight. They're kicked right out of it. And so Young and Beautiful, by doing that, have been able to build themselves up the time necessary to hit EMP, to hit Bomb, and so Erky's impact is going to be lessened even more.
Every single fight is proactive right now from Young and Beautiful. Every single time it pays off. Not as much this time. They still got an EMP to boot, though, and that ultimate advantage that they've built up over time is really going to start paying off. They have to deny Henningsen the space, though, along the side lane. Misses a hook. Great fade by Skyreaper to keep himself alive. But he's been stuck with a pulse bomb. What a shot from Fuki from downtown. Connects the Kobe. Looking for more though. Still full commit from Young and Beautiful. Sound barrier in the back line. But the front line wasn't touched by it. They're all through the choke. They're all being chipped down. Yes, we take care of Urki, but there's still a threat of Henningsen.
Your kids use that EMP to keep the ultimates at bay as the Moira falls. Now we're going to be seeing Urki and Brucean. They've both got ultimates. They've both got the things that can send Young and Beautiful packing if they're not careful about how they walk out of that contest.
It's getting the contested all, though. There's players on point. There's a Roadhog watching your chokes constantly. Your Tracer can't really get around the backside. The supports are what you really need to target. Get those players from the ultimates out of position. Your kids charging up to an EMP. However, Urki's already down. It's not looking great here for the ultimates as 55 seconds go down on the clock. Dramaja needs to clutch this one out.
Hafikil's gonna use the Delta self-destruct to make sure he can get back into his mech, but Chalky Milk wins against your kids, and suddenly Young and Beautiful don't have the threat of EMP, don't have the potential of the Sombra hack to keep the ultimates at bay.
Chalky Milk and Thermagent currently have more picks than their DPS in this fight, and I'm loving it, Moxie. Hoping for more now as the ultimates look to progress towards B.
Support all combat. If your kids had been there, if your kids had been able to kill Chalky Milk, EMP would have been there, and how Young and Beautiful would have been able to go for a proper recontest. Silver lining is, they're 8% away from it. They'll have it in this next engagement. However, they've been going so proactively to win these fights. The ultimates aren't allowing them that space right now. Urki is in full control. Everyone from Young and Beautiful is just having to hide from the poke.
I like the retake on the high ground, though. They played it well with the bomb over top. They looked to catch something, but Urki, that was an optimistic barrage to say the very least.
Chances are you're going to be swapping off of the Pharah onto something like, well, the Sombra.
Sombra.
Because now you can cut everything that Young and Beautiful have. Look at these heroes. Moira, Lucio, D.Va, Winston, all of them enabled by movement, but the ultimates all enabled by abilities cut in half themselves.
And the ultimates have kind of adapted to the proactive play, but every time they think they're safe, Young and Beautiful push even further towards their spawn.
And that's another reason why Urki is on the Sombra, to try and slow things down for Young and Beautiful. You don't want to go in if your Lucio or Moira are hacked out.
Look at this! The bomb's gonna touch the damn spawn door, Moxie! It's no breaks on this Young and Beautiful train until Fuki throws a pulse bomb at you. Then there's breaks. He's gonna force you to break. It's like a train crash, not so much a gentle stop, but you know what, breaks nonetheless. Young and Beautiful finally sent back to spawn.
Urki was in that passenger seat of the train as well. Note the assist onto the Moira kill. You got hacked out, you couldn't use the fade, you bump into your Lucio, both of them go down. And now the ultimates in control of that card, not quite in control of this next fight though. Young and Beautiful will be coming in with 2 support ultimates, and that's going to provide them all of the time they need to hit that Primal Rage, to hit that EMP, and force the ultimates away.
EMEA players separated away. The backline's got the Ana in a corner. It's already a fantastic fight for YaB because they can start focusing down that front line. They take down Urki and Henningsen. Yes, the support picks didn't come in, but they got pushed away, and that was more than enough, Moxie.
Doll's been holding on to the sound barrier though. He knows this next fight is going to be the true test for Young and Beautiful, where they need that sustain, where they need this EMP to be able to hit hard. It will be an overtime as well if the ultimates aren't too careful though. And that means you can't walk off the cart, you can't have a Lucio or an Ana hide from that EMP unless you want to risk a person going down and not being able to get back in.
I mean, can we talk about how much of a turnaround this has been? The ultimates are now on the back foot, something we haven't seen all series. Young and Beautiful look completely renewed, but not out of it yet. Couple picks going the ultimate's way. We'll start pushing that card forward, but the rest of this match, we played in overtime.
The ultimates, though, able to weather the worst that Young and Beautiful were going to show them in the next couple of fights. Your kid uses the EMP, Dollar, the sound barrier, and now the ultimates, they'll be in the driving seat. They've got the EMP, they've got the whole hook. Everything that they can do is just going to force Young and Beautiful off this card and clear them up for another time bank.
That EMP hit 4, but there's no one there to follow up. Henningsen only connects the hook, which he probably would have done without the EMP regardless. I like the aggression from Urki, but his team just wasn't there to back him up. Hog, now the only thing to hold on to the point, pushing this ball away, but Happy Cool survives off the back of a great hack from you kids. Full control of the cart, full control of this overtime now given over to Young and Beautiful. It's up to the Ultimates to clutch it out. I'm looking at Fuki on the Tracer. He's done it once before. He can do it again. Pulse Bomb onto Sky Reaper is there, but you're still bleeding out members from the Ultimates. Fuki still alive on the Tracer. They're taking down the members of Young and Beautiful one by one. He's got the Lucio in his sights so low. It's giving the Ultimates a new breath of life, a new chance at the cart. It looks like they're going to make it through B, Moxie.
Fuki's hacked. Fuki got hacked, and yet he is still alive, still coming up in that kill lead.
Oh my god, this guy's insane. He's cracked. He's a nut. Moxie, there aren't enough words to describe him. He may just be Ronald McDonald, though, because I'm still loving it.
Well, Young and Beautiful still in this fight, though. They've got those respawns coming in, and they just have to deal with Fuki, who's pulled up another Pulse Bomb, the Lucio, and this Hammond.
The spawns are so good for Young and Beautiful right now, and you know what? Fuki's doing everything in his goddamn power to hold on to this cart, but his teammates are just dying too quickly. He can't make up for the difference. He's the only one doing work right now, but my god, he's putting him on the back. The deadlift, nearly complete, finds a melee on Nadala. This guy, sign him already. Somebody, please. He's doing everything he can. Overtime is still going on. The Ultimates just can't edge the cart past this line.
Happyco was even able to build up a second fight of Hammond mines in this overtime fight. And Fuki's got another pulse!
Is that 2 or 3? I'm pretty sure it's 3.
3!
There's no way it wasn't 3. Okay. I'm speechless, Moxie. That was some of the most ridiculous Tracer play I've seen in a long time.
It wasn't just Fuki. Fuki was the one doing everything flashy, but he was enabled by the fact that there is a Hammond consistently sitting on that payload, consistently drawing attention away. So even when the Tracer's hacked, they're still not able to get the pick coming in. However, Young and Beautiful are going to have the ultimates. They're going to start things off with that EMP. This should be their fight to win.
They've only got Henningsen off the back of it. They have to commit the sound barrier. Moxie, that is huge for this next fight. Even if Young and Beautiful win it, that was a key tool they wanted.
That's something that we're not going to see for a couple of fights. And with Urki on this Sombra running into a Winston and a Diva, he should be able to get that EMP up in a matter of moments. Young and Beautiful just threw away that 2 counter sustain through it. Science Barrier and Coalescence both used up.
More importantly than that, yes, you're playing proactively here, but if you lose this fight, you've lost your ultimates. You've also allowed the ultimates to win a fight without using ultimates of their own. They're going to have EMP and sound barrier moving into the next one.
And they're going to hit it at the same time as Nano Boost Whole Hog's Pulse Bomb. Young and Beautiful have to be able to use this Primal Rage really proactively to buy the ultimates off this point to try to set Sky Reaper or your kids up for one of these ultimates to come online.
Fuki searching for the high ground, holding on to the recall. Ballsy choice there, but it leaves him with just half HP. Happyco finding the first pick though. Young and Beautiful looking to play proactive yet again to end it here. There's a Winston up in their backline, a bomb comboed with it to peel for the ultimates. EMP's out, EMP caught, oh, 6 for the ultimates, but they're all dead. There's no follow-up, Moxie. Overtime's ticking down, Chucky and Milk, all they can do is contest. While overtime goes down, Young and Beautiful, I think they've done it. I think they've held on for just one more map.
Especially with that EMP coming out now, Bryson's onto the Reinhardt, but that charge is not going to be fast enough, and Young and Beautiful pull it back. They're able to hit the Coalescence, they're able to hit the EMP, and it all comes off the back of that tank lineup door. We wanted to see those guys step up. We wanted to see them take their place. We've been so hyped up. We know the pedigree. We know the plays that these guys are capable of. Finally, we got to see it. EMEA player uses that Primal Rage. Happyco is able to hold the threat of the Diva Bomb over the Ultimate's heads long enough for Young and Beautiful to use that spawn advantage to come back in with Ultimates, heavy hitting enough for the Ultimates to just not have anything when that EMP comes through and catches the entire team.
And I think that match is surmised by more than just them being proactive. If you go all the way back to Volskaya, if you go back to the first map on Ilios, there's a common thread. It's Lulsish, or not Lulsish, EMEA player, dying first every single time. And I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think he just wants to play a lot more aggressive than the team may be used to. All of a sudden, you put Young and Beautiful in a position where the rest of the team is playing that aggressive, and they look like a well-oiled machine. I think they need to keep this up, just keep stepping on that gas pedal, and they'll be cruising through Route 66, which is our next map.
I mean, how many times did we see the Ultimates forced to take a fight in overtime? Point A, they just managed to scrape by. Point B was off an absolute monstrous run of that team staggering themselves in, allowing Fuki to just reign supreme. And then point C was in that overtime push. Young and Beautiful have been doing such a very good job at forcing this team into playing in panic situations where you think you've got far longer than you do to set up. And that's something that we see a lot of EU teams running with, though. They're very careful about when they actually want to get in. Very rarely do we see a team just immediately hit the gas, bite the bullet, and jump straight into a fight with very little setup. And it's throwing the ultimates for a massive loop. And heading forward into Route 66, you can do the exact same thing. You can kickstart these fights off before the ultimates are ready to face them.
Yeah, I mean, it plays out like a slightly less tall version of the second point of Hollywood, especially on point A. Route 66 is just a home for dive. These teams are likely going to be coming out with the same exact compositions we've seen prior. A lot less Roadhog to be played here because he doesn't really have the same cover to work with.
I mean, you can run with the Roadhog. He still does his job. He still hooks people out of position. He's still an absolute monster falling into that for a DPS. He's Roadhog. He's Roadhog in modern Overwatch 2020. Do you really want to sacrifice that impact? And that's something that we've seen the Ultimates try running with, that Roadhog. Those whole hogs have been absolutely brutal. He doesn't even need the nano boost to have an impact in them. But you do, as you've seen, start leaning away from the Roadhog if Young and Beautiful start going extremely proactively, because if he's not prepared, if that spacing is denied before the hook can properly come in and he yanks someone out of their composition, and suddenly they're up in your face, he is a big old sack of ult charge right for the taking.
A sack of ult charge for Sombras to eat on up. It's been the kids and Urki playing that, but on this map, it opens the door back up for Urki's Pharah, and I think it's likely that they don't go for it, right? I think it was too big of a hit to his confidence, having done fairly bad on the previous map with the Pharah. It didn't have that much impact, but I don't think Hollywood is the same as Route 66. I think it's something they should give another go. It's just a question of whether or not Urki has the confidence to pull it out.
It's a question of whether or not your kids is going to be rolling out on that Sombra as well. A lot of the reason that Urki was not able to find value on that far in the beginning parts of Hollywood was because he was hacked out and immediately targeted down by the Sombra. And Route 66 has arguably got less hiding spaces for the Pharah to try and sneak behind. So if the Sombra is able to close the distance, you're going to have the high ledges. You're going to be able to get yourself up relatively easily if you've got the rest of your team that has support lineup in case things go south. Get the hack onto Urki and once again grind that bird.
Dealing with the Pharah is something they may have to do. It's pretty much similar compositions though. I mean, we've only really seen two today, two different ones between the Roadhog Zarya and the Double Bubble Dive. We may get a look at a third though if Young and Beautiful actually roll out on this Hammond, which I wouldn't be too surprised to see. Hammond's is pretty good here on Route 66. It's only going to embolden that dive.
I mean, it's also going to make it an absolute misery for that backline. There is, though, a big old negative scrolled up into running that Hammond composition door. You're providing just as much ult charge, but much more easily to that Sombra. You are such a vulnerable target, and if you don't have something that can pull you immediately back from the brink of death, you're just going to be allowing Urki to hit EMP after EMP after EMP, especially if EMEA is going to be on that Winston and not going to be there with the bubbles to cancel out the hacks.
And that's a big thing to watch. It's not going to be the bubbles anymore. It's all about how successful these dives are. I'm looking for counter dives. More importantly, Moxie, I'm looking at them keeping their support lines alive, more so than them trying to find the others, especially on the defensive end. It's all up to Henningsen and Brusen to keep Chalky Milk and Sir Majid up. Not play too aggressively, be patient, allow this cart to move forward, and just trust that you'll be able to stop it eventually. Good defense though. Sleep on a halfie. Cool. Urki is down, and the ultimate's not starting this one off great.
But the resurrection is being used. The Sombra is back into the fight. Happy Cool now can go in aggressively, use that pile driver to set the team up to find picks, and maneuver them all off the high ground.
Oh boy. The ultimates are really struggling right now. Like, really struggling to deal with all of the proactivity from Young and Beautiful. And there, it wasn't even proactivity. It was them holding the trigger longer. It was them playing more patient. And I feel like no matter what we do, no matter what form the ultimate economy is in, Young and Beautiful are in the driver's seat.
It was the neutral fight as well. They realize that the resurrection has been used. They play so patiently until it's drawn out, and then they go in aggressively, knowing that the Mercy can't cancel out the impact. In fact, Chalky Milk's already back onto that Lucio.
Now, I like this choice. Just get in quickly, survive as long as you can, because you want to play aggressive. You take down Sky Reaper. Good start here for the Ultimates. They could hold on at the end of A, but they're going to need more than that. The dive is still strong. There's still a lot of damage from Young and Beautiful to deal with.
Your kids thinking twice about using that EMP. Young and Beautiful know that they've lost this fight. Know that when they reset and come again, they're going to have a much better shot. Because now you can have your kids set up this EMP, Dollar waiting in the wings with the Sign Fire, so you've got that sustainability. Because Chalky Milk just swapped off the Mercy onto the Lucio, he hasn't had the time to set the ultimate up to counteract the Sombra play. So Young and Beautiful, all they need to do is walk forward if that EMP hits the team.
Yeah, there is one chance for the Ultimates to come back at this fight, and that's if they choose to commit it. It's going to be a counter EMP. An aggressive one through is nice. It didn't hit you kids, though. Yeah, it's going to be a counter EMP for Young and Beautiful. No surprise there. You catch him out, you start finding picks. It's Henningsen, then Sir Majid. The Ultimates did not have any right being the aggressors in that fight.
They used the EMP really aggressively to try and just cow Young and Beautiful, but it doesn't hit the Coalescence that's already in full swing. The Moira's ultimate sees the entire duration through, and the Ultimates just don't have anything when it comes to that sustainability themselves, because the mission used up that Coalescence. Chalky Milk wasn't able to hit the Science Barrier to try and actually contest Young and Beautiful in the engagement. Moving forward though, the Ultimates will have free to call in on, and if they're able to buy the time, Chalky Milk hits that Science Barrier and he doesn't have to worry about putting it to deal with your kids. So you can use it aggressively to grab the space. Young and Beautiful though, not gonna let them.
Losing Henningsen first is not exactly the same thing as buying time, Moxie. I think the Ultimates may need to get their hearing checked here. We're also going to be losing point B pretty quickly.
Young and Beautiful, remember, the entire time all of this happens, they're building Ultimates up. They're building up to things that can contest what the Ultimates are going to have in play for this next fight. Because Henningsen going down means you weren't able to use the Primal. You weren't able to delay the attack, because you weren't able to put Brucean into a position to use the Diva Bomb.
Yeah, there's no space for this bomb to come through. The Primal Rage likely won't push anyone into it. It buys you space, which is about the nice thing, right? You get out of the door for using bomb, which isn't the worst use of it. In fact, it's about the best use of it they had in that opportunity, but Henningsen's going to fall early again. You traded out for Sky Reaper, but I'll take that one any day of the week. Young and Beautiful now can look for a re-engage. They've got a Sound Barrier to cancel out all of that. Or they've got an EMP to cancel out the Sound Barrier, pardon me. And with Pulse Bomb online as well for the Ultimates, it's not over quite yet.
Especially with Urki having that EMP to hold over Young and Beautiful's heads. EMEA is even going to put in the Primal Rage, but his impact lessened. The Winston can do nothing because he's caught out by the hack.
I think that EMP only caught one person from the Ultimates. They are shaken right now. Young and Beautiful haven't lost a player in a long time. Yes, there have been Ultimates from the Ultimates, but they have to capitalize on them. Henningsen finds the first one in a while with the Primal Rage, and they're finally going to follow up on it, but they need to finish these off.
Especially with Young and Beautiful going to be coming back into this next fight. Don't know what they're doing. They're just doing enough damage to build up to these Ultimates. It's effectively an eco push that last couple of seconds, because now you're coming in with EMP, with Diva Bomb, with a Pulse Bomb, everything that you can need to get yourself safely back onto that cut. Not to win out the fight, no, but to buy you the space to stop the Ultimates from aggressively diving your back line.
Ultimates are waiting for the right opportunity, though, and I honestly feel like that's been the Ultimates issue, is they try to dive the back line. They try to get too aggressive instead of playing any counter dive, especially with a Diva. You have a good opportunity to play counter dive to peel for your supports, to wait for things to happen. Plus, you have Fuki and Urki, who are going to find kills in the back line no matter what you do. Pushing in now, they get aggressive, they walk straight into an EMP. You have to use a Sound Barrier to counter that one, but it's a little bit earlier than you may have wanted. Looking now for the bomb over top, Happy Cool doesn't find it. Sky Reaper committing everything though with the Coalescence. Young and Beautiful are going all in here, but they can't find any kills.
They got so greedy, they thought that they could hold on to Happy Cool's Diva Bomb, that the EMP would be enough. When Brucean gets hacked out by it for Jonah to land the Pulse Bomb and finish off the fight, but because they hold off on it, the two threats come out separately during the Ultimates are able to target both.
Now you're fighting down Ultimates, you're fighting down time. Young and Beautiful, they looked good at the start of this, but maybe less so now.
27 seconds left though, and with Dollar about to hit that sound barrier means that your kids and Yuna are going to be able to hit those ultimates first. However, the ultimates do have those already charged up, and now you can use them aggressively to stop Young and Beautiful from contesting.
And there's the EMP bomb that we wanted to see out of Young and Beautiful. Great combo. It didn't catch the supports. If Dalo was a little bit close to that sound barrier, you would have been punished for it, but ultimates are going to get away with murder for now. 1 second on the clock. They might get a touch for overtime, but that's probably going to be it from Young and Beautiful, who now have to go for staggers.
Young and Beautiful just have to buy enough time for those two DPS to hit those ultimates, and the ultimates have to do everything in their power to make sure that that just does not happen.
It's very unlikely to happen as well, Moxie. You've just got supports on the point. One by one, they can stagger as best they can. Your kids are going to EMP, but just a consolation prize at this point. It's only 2 people. Now I'm questioning, can the Ultimates beat this? Grid 66 is a fairly unforgiving map in a lot of ways. Young and Beautiful learned that the hard way. Can Ultimates match it?
Young and Beautiful have been very aggressive though. That can work on your attack, but on your that can work on your attack, but on your defense rather, you have to be very careful about how you pull this off. Because there are certain points on this map where you don't want to fight. A lot of it comes down to where you want to set up. Do you go for that high ground, or do you hide in the train carriage and hope that you're able to just delay them at spawn a little bit longer? You will be able to burn seconds off. However, if you don't win that first fight, you're equipping the ultimates to come out with their bars charged up far, far higher to hit those really impactful abilities with those cooldowns.
And I know it's been a minute since we talked about it, but Urki still has the opportunity to lock in this Pharah. If they see what Young and Beautiful run out on, which they will, I think it's likely they swap. Because last time they did it because Dal and Sky Reaper were on Lucio Moira. They're going to see the exact same thing, and as long as they haven't lost their confidence, they should make the exact same change.
Not just the Lucio Moira spot out, but the fact that Young and Beautiful weren't running hit scan. And so if Urki comes out on the Sombra and sees once again a Tracer and Sombra, he's gonna know, especially with Fuki on that Ashe on that hit scan, you get up into the sky, you've set yourself up a crossfire that's gonna be absolutely undaunted by anything Young and Beautiful put in your way.
Well, this is one thing they could actually put in the way of a Pharah Mercy, and that's a spawn hold. Getting the Pharah out there and established is pretty much impossible, but swapping over to the Roadhog, perfect answer by Henningsen. I love this choice. Forces him to respect him, forces him back, and now without that same amount of ground to work with, the spawn hold has kind of fallen to bits. You just swap back onto the Winston, and your game plan's back to normal. Now it's Young and Beautiful, and quite frankly, a horrible position trying to re-engage, gain some ground back. They've managed to take out Henningsen, and that'll do that, but without Sky Reaper, you're gonna be seriously hurting for sustain.
That Roadhog pick, it pushed Young and Beautiful away, and it pushed Doll right into Urki, who's able to get the hack off and then capitalize on the moment. The Moira's gone, the Trace is gone. The Ultimates should be able to get themselves out of spawn relatively easily. Now Young and Beautiful are in that really awkward position that I talked about. When you hold at the train carriage and you lose that first fight, you're going to be at such a difference when it comes to ultimate charges. Urki is so very close to that EMP, but you kids silently being able to keep pace.
Yeah, actually, I think the biggest difference here is between the Pulse Bomb and the Coalescence. The rest of the Ultimates are pretty close. If Pulse Bomb and Cole can't end this fight for Young and Beautiful, or pardon me, for the Ultimates, then Young and Beautiful will get a re-engage with Ultimates, pushing in though aggressively. I love this with the Coalescence. They know they have the advantage because they won that last fight, but they haven't got anything off it quite yet. It's doing so much damage, but they need to capitalize. The bomb's thrown out just to make sure that that mech comes back. They can respawn with 6 and look for a re-engage here, because now it's dead even.
Doll's going to be able to hit that sign bar as well, but Urki 7% away from EMP, devastatingly close, shutting off all of Young and Beautiful's sustain.
Oh, they've gone with the bomb on top of the EMP. It didn't catch anybody though. Great job by Young and Beautiful, peeling away and then diving back in to take out the rest of those tanks.
Urki actually, I think, just used that normal hack though. He's still got the ultimate colored in, and that's
oh my god, my bad.
a little bit of miscommunication coming out from the ultimates. If they'd been able to hit that EMP, then that bomb would have been absolutely brutal. But as it is, they only go for the hack, so it only catches out, well, not really anyone. And now you're set up with an EMP, but nothing really to use as follow-up.
And now Young and Beautiful get to play their game. It's the same thing we saw in Hollywood. They're going to be aggressive. They're going to play right up in their spawn. They're going to EMP on top of them every time. The Ultimates, though, they've got a couple tools to bring this one back. They could try for an EMP, actually. If they pick up the support, they should go for this, but no. They don't get the pick. They put the brakes on and are going to hold on for one more fight. 1:30 on the clock, though. Things are getting dicey.
They're holding on to this EMP until Chalky Milk is able to hit that sidebar and Majed the Coalescence. They're going to come in absolutely swinging for the sky. So everything is going to be placed onto this one push, and you've got to be so very careful because Happy Cool holding onto the Diva Bomb, and you don't need an EMP to cancel the Moira's fade if she's locked in her ult.
Well, in comes that ultimate, an engagement from the Ultimates. Will they need the EMP is the big question. Pops it, catches only 2 this time. Can they capitalize? No, Sir Majid goes down. That's a big pick for Young and Beautiful, who now unhacked get to go for the re-engage, and they've got ultimates to do it.
And they're keeping a hold of ultimates as well, so as we near the overtime contest, they'll have the Diva Bomb, they'll have the EMP, all of the threat to force the ultimates to play reserved. Instead, Broson's just got to launch one of his out, hoping that it's enough to spook Young and Beautiful off the cut for Chalky Milk to be able to use that soundbar to keep them out of that EMP's reach. These are all conditions, and these are all so very fragile.
EMP heavy over top. Young and Beautiful, another aggressive play. Everyone's caught out. 17 seconds, Moxie. They're going to have to give it one last good push to try and win this one out. Bombs over top. Another hack onto this Winston. EMEA player can't catch a break, but they also can't touch the cart. Who's going to be there?
You can see it's 3, 2, 1. They've got a little bit of a touch though, but they just don't have ultimates. Young and Beautiful just have the numbers to spare.
Young and Beautiful look and you know what, actually I'll take it back. I'm not gonna look at Young and Beautiful. I'm gonna look at the ultimates. They look like a middle school bully, right? When somebody's being passive, they can push them around and bully them all they want, but the second Young and Beautiful stand their ground, the second they get aggressive, the ultimates just crumble.
The reverse sweep is definitely on the cards for Young and Beautiful. The ultimates tried to go very aggressively, but Young and Beautiful were just able to out-aggress the aggression. That EMP coming out to just put a stop to the ultimates even getting to try and touch that cut with a full team in the overtime contest, it's so clinical from your kids. And I've got to say, he has stepped up his game. He struggled on the first couple of maps. He got out Sombra. But as this series has progressed, though, we've seen the Sombra have more confidence. We've had the team go more aggressively to allow him to get that space to not just go for the 1v1s, but to sit with the rest of the team, to build up EMP from the sanctity of that front line.
And now with the Sombra being better, I think the question is, can they play control better? This was the best looking map type for the Ultimates. They were in control the entire time. They had a great read on Young and Beautiful. If they can put them on the back foot, all of a sudden Young and Beautiful can't play aggressive anymore. They can't play proactive anymore. It's going to be much more difficult for them to get the Sombra into that aggressive position. Yes, you fix a lot of the issues here, but you're still going to what is effectively home field for the Ultimates.
So Young and Beautiful have been able to turn their problems around. Now it's up to the Ultimates. Are they going to be able to take advantage of Young and Beautiful's newfound aggression, find some form of just slowing technique to stop this team in their tracks? Or are they going to fall afoul a third time and find themselves on the wrong end of the reverse sweep?
All the reverse sweeps there, ladies and gents. Get out your brooms, because it's time. We've got map number 5, the final one of the series, coming on in just a moment. We'll be right back after a quick little break. All right, viewers, I know it's what you guys have been waiting for. The series started off with some serious control from the Ultimates, but Young and Beautiful, they're crawling back. They're making their way back in. They've got the brooms. They've got their buckets. What's the thing you sweep them into called? I'm forgetting. The dustpan. Ah, they've got dustpans as well. Yeah, those. They're ready to pull out the reverse sweep. We're heading all the way over to Busan to finish things off. The Ultimates and YaB is decided here and now.
And we were talking a little bit in that downtime door about what exactly changed between these teams. Why Young and Beautiful have been able to make such a comeback. And a lot of it comes down to the Ultimates not being able to suddenly deal with the Sombra. And that is down to Young and Beautiful playing extremely aggressively. The Ultimates basically relied on having the time to be able to set things up to deal with the Sombra. Whether it was Zarya bubbles, whether it was getting Bruceton into position, whether or not it was the Roadhog being able to come in with the hook, Young and Beautiful going so aggressively now denies all of that from being able to be set up. And moving forward, the Ultimates have to be able to go as proactively or find some form of stopping, slowing down Young and Beautiful's composition. Otherwise, this team is just going to get once again absolutely stampeded over by the entirety of 6 players speed boosting their way straight into their middle.
And try as you might, pushing YaB back right now looks really, really hard. I mean, Young and Beautiful, or pardon me, the Ultimates have gone from playing some of the best counter Sombra to some of the diciest I've seen in a while now. The second that they got aggressive, swapping over to the Pharah though, the tried and true Erky looking to carry just like he did on Nepal yesterday, and they've got one map to pull it out.
Erky is going to have to get a lot of Vi though, because he is going to be pulling Chalky Milk away from the rest of the team. You've got to make up for that lack of sustain with a lot of damage.
Well, there's plenty of damage to go around, Moxie, and with Pharah being a little bit tougher to fly with, and it's bound to be that this backline takes a ton of damage. The Mercy low, but the Pharah lower. You trade out EMEA player for Erky. That's going to be worthwhile every day of the week. Erky's done his job. He's gotten rid of one. You got to keep trading out, though, if you're the Ultimates. They've got him back. He's going to come back from spawn. In fact, he's going to have great sightlines to take out the rest. The Ultimates have secured the first 6.
And Young and Beautiful are just forced into these stagger fights. Yipuki gets the absolute run of the place. No one can slow this Tracer down, and the Ultimates have done it. They've been able to use that Pharah as the linchpin of this composition. They know that Young and Beautiful can only stampede their way with that sound barrier onto the things on the ground. And so Erky, above it all, can just rain damage from above. Completely uncontested right now. Yet again, still ignored by the entirety of Young and Beautiful, who just turned their face.
Well, this is kind of where the problems arise. Young and Beautiful don't have the space to get aggressive right now. They have to force it through. It works, though. Sermaji goes down. The Mercy no longer can just sit on Erky the entire time. You need that Pharah to pop off, but it's so difficult. Henningsen with the Primal Rage, though, perfectly timed off the back of the ultimate advantage they gained in the first fight. The Ultimates are going to hold on here.
Young and Beautiful, though, still have some sort of presence on this point, though. Your kid is going to be able to hit that EMP. Surmajet's back in this fight. You even got the baby Diva stagger on Happy Cool. It's the Ultimates looking extremely strong. Going to have to face up to this EMP with nothing that can really counteract it. They don't have that Lucio. They don't have that sound barrier. It's all going to be down to Erky. He cannot be caught out in this because that barrage is the safety that the Ultimates need, that second shield to hide behind if Young and Beautiful go aggressive.
Yeah, Erky and Chocolate Milk need to stay alive. They do. They get the Ultimates off. The Valkyrie's in to keep the rest of the team alive. Erky's left alone for a moment, but a moment is all that the Diva needs for Happy, to hunt him down. Chalky will get a res on to Henningsen, but it's going to be real tricky getting back into this point. However, when Fuki's on your team, is anything even that hard, Moxie?
Tactical's holding onto that Diva bomb, but he's just not in the position to use it right now. Yona going down, Diva anti-nated. He's got to use the bomb just to try and get the mech back in. And remember, Young and Beautiful, all the while this fight's been going on, the Ultimates have had possession of this point. We're in final fight territory, and they've used up all of their ultimates to stay on that point.
99-0, you have to commit sound barrier, and even if you win this fight, the Ultimates are unlikely to use much of anything. They'll chuck a bomb onto point, and Bruce will get knocked off the point for that. I'm not sure if that was a wise decision. However, Fuki is still Fuki and still finding 1v1s everywhere across this point. Young and Beautiful have turned the point over, but it's bittersweet.
Skyrip has got the coalescence, but it's the only thing that this defense will have in this next fight. And Fuki just poking away at the Winston's, trying to build up to that pulse bomb as quickly as possible. Symmetry is even going to be coming with that nano boost, so you don't have to put it necessarily onto Henningsen. He's going to want to use that Primal Rage to get in and buy the team enough space so they don't get poked down by a Sombra or a Tracer. You can put it onto Fuki, and there's absolutely nothing to contest that Tracer unless he gets hacked out.
Aggressive push from YaB though. We know what they do when they have space to work with. They push into the back line. Skyrip though gets way too big for his britches with a coalescence. Now it's the Ultimates fighting back, taking the point over, trading for Fuki. Your star player now gone though. You gotta clutch it out without him. Jonah, it's his turn at the wheel of the Tracer Mobile. Young and Beautiful finding picks all around without having to deal with Fuki.
They're able to get themselves an EMP in this next fight as well. So they're able to win the neutral fight though, they're able to keep a hold of this point, and now they'll have EMP to come in and just bulldoze over the Ultimates. We know how aggressive they go with these, and the Ultimates are just stacking themselves out right now.
They can force out EMP pretty early here actually. So the tick goes over, they avoid losing a bunch of percent, and if they get out cleanly here, that was a really nice little stagger from the Ultimates, just to dance their way on and not let them have it.
But that's the crucial thing, EMP and the follow-up. Everything is going to hinge for both of these teams on that ultimate.
Will they catch you kids out? It's been free for the most part. Sleep onto Happy. Cool. A lot of damage thrown onto the Wrecking Ball. 200 HP to his name. Luckily to get out though. Ramaja still has a nano boost to try and cancel out this EMP. Should it be caught out? You kids still holding the trigger on it though.
He's waiting for the ultimates to try and move properly onto points, and he's able to catch all of them out in one fell swoop. And you can use it as well to make sure the ultimates just don't get to group up as they want.
And Urki's pop barrage for this. They're committing ultimates 80% and they refuse to give up. Moxie, why are the ultimates still going for this?
Urki's just trying to be that constant presence in the sky, but Young and Beautiful have got this Vara's number down right now. As the EMEA is going to go for the juggle onto Henningsen. He's not going to be able to build up to the Primal Rage in this last fight, and still your kids holding onto this EMP. Not going to allow the ultimates to get in cleanly.
I mean, that's just going to be it. That EMP should end things right there and then. Young and Beautiful catching him out. More aggressive Sombra play. And you know what? In that final fight there, it all came down to passive Sombra play, Moxie. They held the EMP. They just loomed it over the head of the Ultimates. The Ultimates thought they'd be walking into it, but the second it wasn't there, it felt like they didn't know what to do.
Everything the Ultimates did to very slowly approaching that point to try and just put everybody in it was all in an effort to bait it out, but your kids just run circles around them. He knows when the EMP comes down, because the Ultimates are running Mercy Anna to try and keep Urki up on that Pharah, they have nothing to save them for when that ultimate comes out. So he puts the full amount of value into it, and Young and Beautiful get as a result to reap the full result when it comes out. Heading into Mecha Base, you can do the exact same thing. Punish the fact that the Ultimates aren't going to have a win condition that can see themselves through that EMP on board. The only way that they can work around it is by changing up the composition, and indeed, Urki is going to be off the fire, doesn't want to get counteracted by a ceiling, or your kid's just pulling out an ultimate onto the Sombra of his own.
Ceilings are known for being particularly powerful in this game. Over Sombra's even more so. Your kid has been a nut looking to gain control of this map. It's back onto the Winston Wrecking Ball to wreak havoc over the Ultimates. Bruceson hasn't gotten that much value out of Steva as of late, but very aggressive move from Young and Beautiful is finally going to be punished. Your kids goes down early. That's a huge hit to the ultimate charge of the Sombra.
And it's a huge hit to the threat as well that Young and Beautiful pet, because now the Ultimates can go in aggressively. There's nothing to stop this dive from being able to move forward, similar to how we're seeing Happy go backing out because he's hacked.
And yet they're still going for this. This is going to be so much ultimate charge given over to the Ultimates if they lose this fight. But Young and Beautiful are not out of it yet. Happy goes clutching it out. The Wrecking Ball is wreaking so much havoc in the back line that they might just be able to turn this point over.
But Urki, because he's able to farm it off of Hakiko, is so closer to the EMP than your kids. And the Ultimates even have the coalescence as they just want to keep control of this point. They've still got that point. They're still just deciding that Young and Beautiful get pushed back out. And during all of this, point percentage is ticking up for them.
So far, this is really good for the Ultimates when things get close quarters and Young and Beautiful don't have the space to work with that they once had. You can't be that proactive, aggressive EMP from the Ultimates. And it's a little bit of their own medicine for Young and Beautiful. Yes, they land the sound barrier, but there's just too much damage being chucked their way. Happy Cool goes down. Brucein still has the bomb to try and counteract this EMP. And it's
as well, EMP of their own sound barrier, Coalescence all committed to try and find some form of value in those. It's an absolute landslide of ultimates, but it finds an absolute big fat 0, dude. And now you've crippled yourself, shot yourself right in the foot when it comes to that ultimate economy. You don't have the EMP, you've got a Primal Rage, but that is it. And Happy Cool is off the Hammond onto the Diva just to try and have a little bit more extra peel for that backline with Defense Matrix.
I mean, the scary part for me right now is the fact that there's still 2 ultimates up for the ultimate, and those are both supports. Those are going to keep the team alive for so long in this fight, regardless of EMP. YaKids isn't going to build it up in time. Young and Beautiful are bound to lose this one because they committed so much in the last.
And unfortunately for them, because they're losing this fight so quickly, they're not able to charge those ultimates up.
Oh, they're not losing it quickly, Moxley. They're losing it slowly, way too slow. That you're committing to it.
Oof, the ultimates coming out with that EMP. Young and Beautiful, remember, they have to win this fight, though.
With popping the EMP, though, we're not certain if they won. It feels like our producers lost a little bit of connection here. I don't have my feed.
Well, that's a big fat no on my feed as well. So I guess they're gonna be reduced to Fury Crafting.
Alright, so Erky popped EMP. I think that's an easy win for the Ultimates. I think it's a worthwhile EMP. You're at 90%. Young and Beautiful, the odds they get another touch off or are able to capitalize on the EMP of their own aren't great. Young and I gotta say, the commitment there from Skyreaper was just too much. The Coalescence probably doesn't do it for him.
Honestly, Young and Beautiful, their only hopes at being able to come back into this door is that overtime contest. You've got to be able to buy yourself enough time, hope that the ultimates dry themselves out of those very same ultimates when that fight turns into the overtime, because you use the EMP. Bruce's holding onto that bomb for sure, but that can be very easily avoided with how Mecha base plays out. There are simply so many hiding spaces all around this point, and as soon as bomb goes off, everyone just creeps their way out, and then you've got the EMP, you've got the pulse bomb, you've got the Cyan Barrier, you've got all of the power into that next fight. However, it all comes down to whether or not you're actually able to come in with that 10% and turn that into the ultimate charge necessary to hit those abilities.
So we've just got confirmation, Moxie. The Ultimates have tied up the score 1-1. We're heading to map 3 in map 5. I mean, this is as down to the wire as it gets.
Absolutely. And going into Sanctuary, we know what both of these teams are going to be coming out with. It's going to be that Sombra, it's going to be that Winston. It all comes down to off-tank support lineup. That's something that I think Young and Beautiful had struggled with, especially when we saw on that mecha base play, when they invest so heavily. They see that the EMP is invested, they think, okay, we've got to put Cyan Barrier in, and then Cyan Barrier finds nothing, but it's such a huge ultimate, they still want to win that fight. They don't want to be behind in the ultimate economy, so they throw Coalescence on top, but it gets absolutely nothing as well. It was that panicked form of state, very similar to how we saw them playing on that first part of Control all the way back when the series first began on Ilios. And
well,
if they
go Moxie goes ahead and get their feedback up here, we're going to hop into the third map. Mox, please check the chat. And it's already the Ultimates gaining control on the final map boost on. It's Sanctuary. Young and Beautiful looking to get aggressive here. YaKids already up to 20% ultimate charge. Ultimate's forced onto the back foot. It's a great fight for Young and Beautiful so far, but no picks to be found quite yet. Neither team wants to be the one to give over that first tick, but I'm loving the positioning from the Ultimates. They're going to be able to encroach on this area, search for the back line. You know they've got Skyreaper and Dollar right in their sights, but it's a duel between the Winstons. That's really difficult. Erky drops so low. The Sombra is the first to go for the Ultimates, and already going to be down on that ultimate charge. It's them taking over the point first. Ultimates re-engaging. They're going to take the point back over after a little bit of trouble initially. Young and Beautiful get it, but they force out the Coalescence for it.
However, Young and Beautiful will be coming in with this next fight for EMP, and that's all that they need to keep that going.
EMP will sustain the fight. YaKids was the first to hit it. Erky behind because they died first in that first fight, but the EMP is not enough, Moxie. The Ultimates have pulled it out. All of the proactivity in the world isn't going to count in that fight when it goes down to scraps.
And because the Ultimates invested so heavily, it's going to come back once again and cost them in this next engagement. Because look what the Ultimates have access to. They'll have the EMP and dollar 15% away from that side right. It's being cancelled out by the Sombra once. Very much in danger of being cancelled out a second time.
I mean, there's so much terrifying artillery from the Ultimates that's going to come out early here. And honestly, it doesn't matter what order they pop it in. When you have Sound Barrier and EMP, you're almost guaranteed to win the fight. It's about not using both of them. You really want to avoid this aggressive bomb comboed with the EMP, though. Catches out Sky Rippa. No heals to back this team up. Sound Barrier is committed by Dala!
Halfway after the EMP's already found its impact. I saw that the Lucio was holding onto it. I heard the EMP. I saw that the Lucio kept the ultimate. And I felt my hopes rise. And then I saw two come up in the kill feed and Sidebar immediately afterwards. And they plummeted right off the cliff. Because now you don't have the sound barrier. Now you don't have something that you can use as the follow-up for when your kid pulls out that EMP besides that Diva Bomb. And it's so situational. You've got to chance it on the fact that someone from the Ultimates is going to be cut out by it.
Well, you can come in, but with a severely neutered set of Ultimates. Gonna pop all of them, though. Pulse Bomb, along with Primal Rage. EMP still in tow for you kids, but it looks like they're gonna need it at this rate. They've only got one kill onto Henningsen, and there is still Urki and Fuki hiding around this point. They've got the tick over, and they've managed to keep a couple out. It was a rough last fight, but they come out of this one unscathed.
There's a big old difference between these two losers right now, though. Chalky Milk sees that the fight's going in the wrong direction for the Ultimates, knows EMP is going to be online for your kids in the next one, and holds on to that sound barrier. So Young and Beautiful have to be able to go aggressively, have to be able to catch the Lucio out, and have to have the follow-through going up.
Oh, but you forget, Moxie, it's Young and Beautiful, and they're playing aggressive. They have space. Both of these teams have struggled to deal with aggression from one another's side, but it matters who has it right now, and right now, Young and Beautiful are evening up that percentage.
Young and Beautiful have to go for the exact same play. This time, though, they won't have that EMP to enable them. Because if they allow Urki to hit that next 18%, Chalky Milk will have the sound barrier. The Ultimates can get just as aggressive as we see Young and Beautiful go.
In comes the dive. They've got EMP to boost it. Urki's just 15% away. Forced out the translocator all the way back to spawn. He's so far away. That's effectively a free pick for Young and Beautiful. If they can follow up on this, it's going to be huge. Bomb into the back line. Doesn't find anything. No. Chalky Milk, though, goes down in the meantime. The Ultimates beaten down by the fact that their Sombra had to translocate all the way back. They're committing! EMP's in! It's final fight now! It's now or never. Henningsen's cleaning up too! The Ultimate's looking for a big one, so Ramaja's gonna have to go for a re-engage with the Coalescence. They've got to hold out for one more fight though, Moxie.
Coalescence able to keep them up, but they don't have the EMP. Dolla's even going to be putting sound barrier in. Young and Beautiful, no, as soon as Coalescence runs out, they've got the EMP, they've got the aggression, they've got the Ultimates that can keep this team sticking on that point.
No C9 yet for the Ultimates, holding on with Henningsen on the point. The EMP's there, but the players aren't for Young and Beautiful. Trying to clutch out. It's now or never for them. And he comes dancing around the point. Urki charging up to that next EMP. Bruising chucks in a bomb over top. Young and Beautiful running out of opportunity to contest this one. It's going to tick back over for the Ultimates. The only thing for Young and Beautiful they have going for them is that they get one last chance, and it's not great.
Well, they have 3% left to touch. Skyper Reaper is so close.
They're not able to.
But they're not able to.
Oh my god.
Take it away. Take Busan. Take Sanctuary. Take the series. Stop Young and Beautiful's hopes of getting that reverse sweep going through. And my goodness. Well, there's some strange plays coming out from both of those teams. So investments over and out from both sides. But the Ultimates able to take the win because Young and Beautiful used that EMP, fought once Coalescence ran out for the side of the Ultimates. They would be able to keep themselves on that point, that they would be able to lock it up. But the respawns were right there. The aggression that they showed, it was too much. And they paid for it.
I mean, I got 3 words for you there, Moxie. Tooth and nail. My god. It wasn't the right decision for both of those teams to chuck everything into that fight and trying to win it at some point. Young and Beautiful should have just backed away, held what they had, but no. They went for it, and then the Ultimates went for it, and both of them threw everything they had into that final fight. And I don't think I've ever seen two teams go harder for a final map, but at the end of the day, no reverse sweeps. Ladies and gents, you can put away the cleaning utilities. The Ultimates have dragged themselves across the finish line and put themselves up 2-0 in Contenders Trials.
The saddest thing for me, though, is that Young and Beautiful had a real shot. If they'd been able to get that touch going on door, Skyreaper was 78% of the way to Coalescence. You would have hit that ultimate far, far, far faster than the Ultimates would have been able to keep themselves sustained on that point through absolutely nothing at all. And you would have been able to pick it up. You would have been able to take it away, but that touch, it just doesn't come through because they stay on that fight far too long. The Hammond isn't given the time to go for the swap and then get the touch going. And it's mistakes like those that Young and Beautiful, unfortunately, fall foul of. First at the beginning on Ilios and Volskaya, and now on that 5th and final map.
And now we're left with a Young and Beautiful that are 1-1. The Ultimates that are 2-0. I said at the beginning of the day that the Ultimates look better and better every time I see them. This was a spanner in the works. This was the wrench they were not ready for. But if they can take on Young and Beautiful looking like that, I'm almost certain that they can take on anything.
I do think, though, that we have an interview in the works there. It seems to be Brucean that's going to be joining us over from the side of the Ultimates, and I'm definitely looking forward to hearing at least some of what was going on in the comms in that final map.
Hello.
Hello. Welcome.
Hello.
Congrats.
Thank you.
All right, big win on the board. You guys are up 2-0. My God, did you have to fight for it though? Young and Beautiful, arguably one of the best teams in your guys' group, but you came out ahead after a grueling series. Did you guys expect to fight that hard for that 1 point?
You mean the last point?
I mean the point, not only the last point,
Fifth
but the entire
map.
match. I mean, going
entirety of the fifth
2-0.
I mean,
You guys expect it
yeah.
to be that difficult?
I mean, we were popping off at the start, right? The first 2 maps, and then they came back. You see, like they have a couple of new players, and you really saw like they were growing over the series, and they came back really hard on those 2 maps they won. So we knew like the last map, like the 5th map, was going to be a tough battle, right? And yeah, especially with that comp, with like the dive and the Moira Lucio, those fights. Oh, there was and so much screaming going on. it was crazy.
And you took it all the way to 5 maps. That's a grueling task for anyone in competitive Overwatch. How did the team's mentality stay afloat?
I mean, the thing is, this is a great group of guys who are all just having fun. Like, I'm just standing in, you know, like we're just playing for fun. So we came into the series just looking to make it a good series, you know. I was really looking forward to it, to play against my old teammates, of course. And we were, yeah, I mean, I played with some of these guys before, so there's some synergy here and there, and it went off to a good start. So we didn't really get scared, like when it got to 2-2, right? Because most teams you would like maybe start choking or you start showing cracks, right? But we were just having so much fun in the series that it didn't even matter, you know. It was fun that we could go to 5 maps.
I mean, what an amazing outlook on it. And even though you're having fun the entire time, there was a clear issue dealing with some of the more proactive Sombra play once the Young and Beautiful started breaking it out. What exactly clicked to kind of break that open on the final map? Because you guys were really struggling with it when it came especially to Hollywood.
Yeah, it's like because me and Urki are new, right? And we haven't practiced that much. Like what you get sometimes, especially because this is also a new patch. Like you have to keep in mind, like these comps are all new. Like before today, we never played the Sombra, Tracer, Moira, Lucio. We just did it because we wanted to match them, right? Like we were getting dove all the time, and we were like, well, let's just match it, you know. And so what happens is you're like walking up, and then Yiki's just like set up somewhere behind. I'm trying to find him, but I don't always find him, right? And they just go like really early. But you're still talking about something. That's why you're like maybe not paying attention. So that's why we got caught off sometimes, right? Like you just see us walking up and we're like still discussing something.
Well, talking of sort of synergizing with a new team, how often do you guys practice and scrim and sort of hang out?
I mean, I have no idea. I got asked Sunday, like late in the evening, if I could stand in. And I was like, yeah, sure, you know, let's go for it. So all that we've done so far is we had a very short warm-up yesterday and then the official, and we had like a warm-up today and then an official, so that's all we played.
Hey, well, you pull away the win regardless. The Ultimate's always an entertaining team to watch. Huge congrats on that. Before I let you go, I'm going to open up the mic for you, call out anybody you want, coaches, players you felt like popped off, or if you feel like the team as a whole was doing great, go ahead and throw it there.
I mean, I want to give a shout out to my teammates, of course. I hesitated if I wanted to stand in or not because I just wanted to chill for a bit. You know, I just came out of another team, but I'm glad that I started playing for them because some of them are my friends, right? I know them from before, and it's been really fun just playing with them. And also give a shout out to Young and Beautiful. You know, they played really well, and they have to deal with a rebuild, and all their players are very, very good. So with a little bit more time, they'll start destroying everyone.
Yeah, you guys certainly sound like you had a great time playing that game, and that's what we want. Some real fun Overwatch. But as for real fun Overwatch, ladies and gents, we're all out for today. That's the final match of EMEA. Thank you so much, Brucein, for popping in for the quick little interview, though.
Thank you.
All right, ladies and gents, like I said, that's all we have for today. Same time tomorrow, though. You won't want to miss it. There's plenty more matches to be found. Same time, same place, though, for today. From everybody here at the Monkey Bubble production team, from Moxie and I, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.